This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Happy hump day, y'all. Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Andrew Paterson, Michael Remis with ya. The day one of the hockey offseason officially, because the Florida Panthers have run it back as Stanley Cup champions, doing it again last night at the expense of the Edmonton Oilers, this time in 6 games. Nate Schmidt's a Stanley Cup champ. Dmitry Kulikov has another ring, as does former Jets head coach Paul Maurice and his right-hand man, Jamie Compon. Brandon Rewucki will jump on. We'll talk to Brando about the end of the hockey season. And now all 32 teams are looking ahead to the draft, to free agency. There are plenty of topics to get to. Ken Wiebe as well will join us today. Looking forward to Ken's thoughts on the final. And we'll dive into the big questions now surrounding the Winnipeg Jets as we get closer to July 1st. We're also going to check in with one of the newest stars on the Winnipeg Sea Bears a little bit later on. And my pal Pat Gregoire is going to pop on. We're going to get into the Travelers. Looking forward to seeing what Patty has to say about the U.S. Open. We'll also have details on our Poker Tourney Monday and what the top 2 finishers will be in for as they qualify for the finals of the Coolbet Poker Open, with a potential trip to Estonia on the line for whoever wins. So that's coming up at the end of the program. Tomorrow on the show, we'll have Max Murphy. Perfect time to have Max on because tomorrow is our Gold Eyes game. And I know some people have been asking questions. If you weren't at the game last year, you'll get an email later on today. We will be set up right in front of the ballpark, in front of the stairs at 5:30 p.m. Everybody that bought tickets, just pop in, check in with us. We'll get you a wristband, which allows you access to the ballpark and to the lower left field patio deck, which we have sold out for the game tomorrow night and cannot wait to see all of you there for what should be a great night at the ballpark. Shout out to the Fish. Got a nice win last night. Hopefully they can keep that going into tomorrow for our WST patio party evening. Listen, just before we get into everything and welcome in Michael Remis, a big thanks to the sponsors that make our program happen each and every day. Of course, our partners at Coolbet Canada, Princess Auto, Prairie Toyota, Ben Moss, St. Vital Dental Center, Manitoba Battery, Canadian Club, Rowley's Transfer, Aikens Lake, F Apparel, Royal Sports and Boston Pizza, Little Brown Jug, as well as the Gold Eyes, Assiniboia Downs, live racing back at it tonight. Breezy Bend Country Club will also do a Why Not question of the day for not Autocorp, but Waverly and McGillivray. And of course, fan feedback from all of you brought to you by fansfirst.ca. Michael Remis, what's going on?
Feeling good as day one officially of the NHL offseason. I am enjoying the Cup celebrations. I think that's the best celebration out there with the fireworks and Gary Bettman handing the captain the trophy, the Conn Smythe presentation, the players all getting a turn with the Cup. I love the interviews after, shout-outs to the hometown and people who helped them get there. It was great celebration. The game, not so much, not really close, but the hockey season's over. We're on to CFL. Baseball is in the middle of the season as well. Hockey off season ramping up now. So it's an exciting time here on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think we can now, obviously we were all paying attention to what was happening in the Stanley Cup playoffs, but now that it's all but wrapped up, other than the parade for the Panthers, it is time to get into off-season business. Of course, we had a great visit with Cam Robinson yesterday. If you missed that, Go back and check that, and talked a lot about, what he's hearing around Jonathan Taves. And then, of course, the draft coming up. And you know what? This next week plus, Remo, always one of my favorites of the year, because there is a lot of fun hockey player movement talk, but there's also the draft coming up. And listen, the Jets still do have their pick. It wasn't traded at the deadline, so that is an asset. I'm still of the opinion that if they find the right trade partner to potentially fill a couple of the holes that they feel that they need to fill, that first-round pick could absolutely be on the move this year. Obviously, it's not an early pick with the Jets getting to the final 8 and then winning the President's Trophy. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the Jets are picking 28th in the draft as of right now. We'll confirm that, but it is going to be fun, and we'll also be able to get, much like we had Cam on yesterday, a few of our favorite draft experts on to kind of handicap the young men that'll be making their way into the NHL in the next few years and being picked in the first round.
Yeah, the Jets do pick 28th overall, and I think if they could move that pick for a player who could help them in the near future, especially if Ehlers leaves, that would probably be beneficial than making a pick at 28 and a guy who can help you a few years down the road. And, I get excited for the draft on draft day, seeing the players get selected, hugging their families, and then you remember, okay, this guy got picked, and then a couple years down the road, when the NHL, you look back and say, oh yeah, I remember when that guy was drafted. The Islanders did lock into the first overall pick, so congrats to them. We haven't really touched on it too much. And the Sharks and the Blackhawks, two rebuilding teams, looking to take a step forward. You think the Chicago more so than San Jose? And how about Utah they moved up to the 4th pick too, and I wonder if Utah is going to be a player in free agency. We saw before with Arizona, that was the team where you'd send your bad contracts to. And now Utah, they have a real owner who's going to try to actually win games, and that's good for the NHL. And I'm curious about Utah's year 2 now that they're the Mammoth.
I would not at all be surprised if the Mammoth were big players. I mean, listen, a lot of this is going to start with Mitch Marner, how much he is looking to get and where he ends up. I mean, there'll be some, frankly, bad teams with lots of cap room that I think will throw money at him. Does he go somewhere like that? Or, he's been rumored to be connected to Vegas. I mean, some of the other more top teams, although I don't think there would be the 14 million or whatever that, many people have rumored there if he wants to go to a contending team right now. But let's focus in on the Panthers, Remo, that won the Cup last night. Sam Bennett, how's that for timing? Wins the Conn Smythe Trophy and back-to-back championships just on his way to unrestricted free agency at 28 years old. And I know Frank Saravelli's got his latest free agent board up. And the folks at AFP Analytics protected Bennett's contract at 6 years at 6.4 at the beginning of the playoffs. And as Frank points out, that number has risen in a big, big way. The Panthers have to deal with Bennett, Aaron Ekblad, and Brad Marchand. They've got $19 million in cap space. Most of their other deals are signed. Their key parts of their core are signed for the next 4 or 5 years. I guess the biggest question coming out of last night is how similar will this Panthers team look next year to the one that just raised the cup for the second year in a row? And can they possibly find a way to keep all three of Bennett, Marchand, and Aaron Ekblad?
Yeah, Bill Zito seemed like he was going to try in the postgame. That would be a tall task. And if you're those players, do you really want to leave a team where you just won back-to-back Stanley Cup championships or went to 3 straight as well if you're Bennett and Ekblad? So we'll have to see what happens there. And, yeah, what will people be wanting to pay for Brad Marchand, 37 years old, and Sam Bennett as well? Not exactly a big point producer. However, he was in the playoffs leading in goals, and he was, 4th in the overall points for the playoffs. As far as Conn Smythe voting, Bennett did win with 76 total points on that. Marchand, the next closest, 68. Bob, not much consideration, 10 points. So yeah, everyone had Bennett or Marchand as their first and second, actually. And I think that was the right play. Sam Bennett, you saw how valuable he was to the team. Not only scoring, but also the extracurricular stuff that he seems to be so good at and makes everything look like an accident.
Well, yeah, everything looks like an accident. Accidentally on purpose, I believe is the term for that. I'm just looking at some of these AFP projected numbers. And I mentioned that Bennett's was 6 years at 6.4. He's going to get 7 or potentially 8 with the Panthers. And I would be stunned if that number doesn't start with 8 million AAV. The number for Marchand going into the playoffs from AFP was 2 years at 5.1 million. Remo, we're hearing that Marchand is going to want 4 years in excess of $8 million. And I got to tell you, recency bias is real. If people are thinking in the moment and looking at the guy that just came to the Panthers and was such a difference maker in the playoffs, he might actually get that deal that could take him to like 41 years old. I'm not sure that the Panthers can afford to do that, though.
Yeah, does he want something like $8 million for a 37-year-old player? That's tough. I know we had a great playoffs, but I don't know if that's the wisest investment. We'll have to see, but congrats to Brad Marchand. And one thing that's come out of all these pictures from the celebration, I do want to give a shout out. Bleacher Report put this together with the captions. I got Brad Marchand today. They're all at the elbow room, and in Florida, he's got the cigar, he's got the coffee, got the iced tea, and another beer tucked in under his arm.
The elbow beer.
Yeah, the elbow beer. So these guys are celebrating not only the Stanley Cup win, but I'm sure Brad Marchand's pretty happy about his next contract because him and the Bruins couldn't come to terms. The Bruins didn't think he was worth it. I think he certainly proved to them that he can still play and prove to the league that he can play. And Sam Bennett, I mean, what a playoffs it was for him. I'm curious what his contract is going to be. I feel like if I had to guess, sounds like he's going to be back with the Panthers. Ekblad, I wonder, did they get Seth Jones to be his replacement? Like if you're these guys and the Panthers are offering you money, how much more do you need to step? Like, how do you walk away from what they just did the past 2 or 3 seasons? It's tough, man.
Well, and Ekblad, I mean, a former first overall pick that I thought was brilliant in the playoffs. When they originally got Seth Jones, I was of the opinion that, okay, this probably means that they'll be moving off of Ekblad and really focusing on keeping Bennett. But I don't know how you walk away from Ekblad at 29 years old either. I mean, just speaking from a Jets perspective. Now, listen, do I think that the Jets would have the ability to get a player like Ekblad in free agency? No, so please don't take this that way. But can you imagine how good a beast like Ekblad would look on the right side of Josh Morrissey on the number 1 pair of the Jet blue line? I mean, if he does get to free agency, I know the number that the AFP had, for Ekblad was 7.7 by 8. I mean, now that he's a 2-time Stanley Cup champion, much like these other guys that are going to go to market and have their ability to choose from all of their offers, the offers are going to be big. And a player like Ekblad to move teams, I think would be, probably in excess of 9 right now. And that's going to make it difficult to keep all those players. But when you talk about the tax situation and the fact that they've won back-to-back, don't be surprised if some guys take lower contracts in Florida to stick around. And that's one of the benefits you have when you go to 3 straight cups and win back-to-back championships.
Yeah, and you try to look at, okay, how are these guys going to keep everyone together? Who would you move out if you had to move out any salary? But they've done such a good job, Huss. I know a lot of people want to say, state taxes, blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, Dennis Bernstein mentioned this earlier. They've made great moves, like picking up Gus Forsling off waivers, trading for Sam Bennett, trading for Sam Reinhart. And they traded picks and good prospects for them. So they've done a great job building. They've got all their players, Virhage, Lundell, Reinhart, Chuck, Barkov. Jones, Forsling, locked up for a while. They're in a really good place, and I do wonder, if they'll certainly be the favorite to repeat again next year, I would think.
Yeah, I think they're already up at the books at 6-1 as the favorite to come back. Bob has one more year at $10 million on his contract, and listen, Bob was phenomenal once again in winning the Stanley Cup. Obviously, the future of the big free agents on the Panthers is going to be a big part of it. We can't forget about Nate Schmidt. And, Nate Schmidt was noted in Frank's piece as well. Right off the bat, Nate Schmidt and Panthers top-end trio see stock soar in the top 50 free agent rankings. But it was a year ago that the Jets bought out Nate Schmidt. And he signed just a one-year, $800,000 deal with the Panthers. I thought that he might not even be a regular player for the Panthers, never mind being the first guy to get the cup passed to him last night. For those of you that are watching on YouTube right now, there's the unmistakable grin of Nate Schmidt that's pretty much always there, but smiling a little bigger with the Stanley Cup over his head. He's a guy that's made some money. Obviously, he got the buyout. He signed for a small deal. There's going to be interest in a Nate Schmidt moving forward. But again, a player like that, why would you want to leave? And as I said, it's a very envious position for the Panthers to be in, with a lot of guys that might be willing to take less to keep a championship team together. And if they do have spots to fill, that destination is going to be at the top of the list of just about everybody with choices to make as UFAs in the NHL.
Yeah, Nate Schmidt lifting the Stanley Cup. And I think if you were a Jets fan watching last night, I was watching to see Nate lift the cup, and we had so much talk. Okay, who is going to be the first guy to get the cup after the captain, Barkov, and he handed it right to Nate Schmidt. And I wasn't sure if they were actually going to do that. We looked at the odds, and he was the favorite, but they gave it to all the first-time winners first. And some of those veteran guys took it at the end, and they talked so much after the game about how they were a team. They went to all the meals together on the road. They're like, we know everyone says that they're a family, but we're the real family team. They said all the right things. And I figured, hey, give it to Bennett, who won the Conn Smythe. Give it to Reinhart, who scored all the goals in Game 6. But it showed you, how much they really care about each other. That said, hey, Nate Schmidt, you're a veteran guy. You haven't won. We've all won. I forget what player it was, but they asked him about, watching the players raise it for the first time after winning it last year. And he said, it's like watching your kids do something for the first time. You're happier for them than you are for yourself. So it was cool to see Nate Schmidt. Yeah, it had to be tough getting bought out by the Jets last year. And then signing, with his old coach, Paul Maurice, giving him a chance in Florida. And what an impact he made in the playoffs when he got in the Cup final. Congrats to him. And nice to see him have some success. Got there with Vegas in 2018. They didn't win. And I did note on X last night, Schmidt joins former Winnipeg Jets. Who is it? Hainsey, Oduya. Who's the other one? Kulikov, who also won for the second time yesterday. And one other, Bogosian, former Jets to leave the Jets and win the Cup. And I'm not throwing shade or saying they should have kept them. I just like to keep this information for trivia. Next time we do trivia, whenever that may be, someone's like, what's your point of saying this? I'm like, I don't know. It's just like information, stats. I don't know. Why do we mention anything?
Players, people know these players well. And listen, Nate Schmidt was a real fan favorite. It wasn't like he couldn't still play. It was the fact that, at his salary with what the Jets were looking to do with the extensions kicking in, the numbers didn't seem to work. And they decided to go the way of a buyout for a guy that wasn't even always in the Winnipeg Jet defense corps. But just on a personal note, I think not a lot of people that, didn't like Nate Schmidt as a person. To be traded by Vegas just before they won, to come here to Winnipeg, then to be bought out. You wondered what his future was. For him to sign for Pomo, to play regularly with another former Jet and Dmitry Kulikov, And to get his hands on the cup last night, I mean, certainly it did seem to be like a great move for Nate Schmidt to go to the defending Stanley Cup champs. And now while he doesn't have 2 rings, he's got 1. And I wouldn't at all be surprised if he signs a similar deal to stay in South Florida and see if he can have an opportunity to run it back. On the other side is Edmonton. And I just did an hour with Dusty on the Lock Shop, and it was, a bit of a grave or morgue, if you will. A lot of depressed fans getting so close again and not being able to get it done. Huge questions for Edmonton moving forward. Like, we got into this, like, what is Evan Bouchard's contract going to look like? Like, the numbers that he's put up is going to put him possibly looking at $10-11 million a season. And knowing that you're going to have to pay likely max value for Connor McDavid, and you've got Draisaitl on the books, and you've got Darnell Nurse at 9.5 without or with full no move, it is going to be really difficult to mix that in. McDavid has to be your priority. And listen, we saw the good and the bad of Evan Bouchard over the course of the playoffs. Some brilliant stuff offensively, some real ugly moments defensively. And as far as the game went last night, I mean, obviously, Mattias Ekholm probably shouldn't have been out there. He was so off. But, to have those 2 goals go in when you've got McDavid, when you've got Draisaitl out, and you've got arguably your number 1 pairing of Bouchard and Ekholm on it, listen, once that game went that way with those issues, it was pretty much etched in stone, or they were getting the engraver out for the Stanley Cup final to put the Panthers back on that. But I'm really interested as to how the Oilers go from here. As long as they have Draisaitl and as long as they have Connor McDavid, they'll probably be the team to beat in the West right now. But when you lose in the fashion that they did, especially with what they did last offseason, Remis, I think there's a ton of questions about how the Oilers move forward after this.
Yeah, you have to wonder about goaltending, and for the Oilers, seems like Paul Maurice has their number, 3-0 coaching against the Oilers. We had the sweep here again with the Jets and the Panthers, 2 Stanley Cup wins. We were waiting for Connor McDavid to have some type of game where, he'd put the team on his back, but 1 goal and 1 assist in the final 4 games of the series, well below his career average. And you didn't see a lot from Draisaitl either. Florida really keyed in and shut them down, and their depth guys weren't getting it done. You said you wanted to see Kane with the big game, and as the series went on, that Zach Hyman injury became huge. They didn't have the depth screen. You didn't have Kasperi Kapanen pulling goals out of nowhere, and it kind of dried up. And, you can mention the goaltending, but they scored 1 goal last game, and if you're not getting it from McDavid and Draisaitl, you weren't getting it from anyone else. And so, questions for them. What we're hearing, a contract for Trent Frederick already. Corey Perry, where does he land? He's a free agent. And as you mentioned, Evan Bouchard, an RFA. Klingberg, a UFA. I wonder what happens with him. I always feel bad with that. He turned down, 7x7 from Dallas a couple years ago. Like, is he even going to make half that? Anyways, that's a different conversation. But yeah, Edmonton, 2 losses in a row in the Cup final. It's tough. And Stuart Skinner's got 1 more year at 2.6. Pickard's got another year at $1 million. Do they go with some kind of goalie upgrade here that people have been saying they've needed for a while? They've got to the Cup finals. You can say that it's fine, but when it came to crunch time, they weren't able to get past Florida.
Hey, Bob was the better goalie in the series. But again, I think it's low-lying fruit to say, it's the goaltending. They didn't score in these last 2 games that they needed to. And, I'm sorry, if you have, the amount invested into Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, and then you play them together, if you do not get significant offensive contributions from those guys, you're not winning. And credit where credit's due. The Florida Panthers did just an absolutely awesome job of shutting down those guys in the most important games. And, listen, I wanted 7. I think most hockey fans without any skin in the game wanted a 7th game. Through 4, Remis, this looked like this could be arguably the greatest Cup final of all time. I mean, you had the comebacks, you had 3 overtime games. But once it got to 2-2, Game 5 on Saturday night, Game 6 tonight, the Florida Panthers reminded everybody that they are still the standard in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and that's why they're still partying at the Elbow Room in Fort Lauderdale right now.
Yeah, and the key, you mentioned the Oilers, how they couldn't get scoring. The Panthers seem to have it from every line. We talk about Barkov not performing well, Marchand scoring all these big goals, and if you took, E2 Luosterainen at the end of your hockey pool, I would think that you did okay. As that third line there, excellent, and Sam Bennett on your second line leading the playoffs in goals. So, they had so many. On their top 9, all those guys could put the puck in the net, and no worries about that. That's very solid defense. The Panthers, a very complete team, great goaltending, and when you look back on this team, in the salary cap era, where does it rank among great teams, and how many of these guys could be going to the Hall of Fame? I'm seeing talk Bobrovsky with 2 cups now, Vezna's, he could probably his name, Paul Maurice. 2 Stanley Cups. How does this change how you thought about him when he left the Jets to now with the Panthers? So they were a very well-built team, Florida. I'm interested to see if they'll be able to run it back, but congrats to them. And I think as the series went on, they asserted their dominance over Edmonton, and Edmonton just didn't have the scoring to keep up with Florida, who could get it from anywhere.
Well, we finish off the same way we did last year with the Panthers partying and the Oilers with the shortest offseason of any other team in the National Hockey League. We've got a draft next week. We've got free agency the following Monday. So this is going to be, listen, as much as it would have been great to have a 7th game, it's now down to business for all the NHL general managers. Kevin Cheveldayoff here in Winnipeg. See what you can do with your own free agents before July 1, and if not, let the frenzy begin for the UFA class of 2025. Let me throw out the why not question of the day for Not AutoCorp over at Waverly and McGillivray. And Remo, maybe if you want to put a poll up for this one, we'll see what people have to say. Which of the big free agents on the Panthers, in your opinion, is most likely not to be there next year? Is it Sam Bennett? Is it Aaron Ekblad? Is it Brad Marchand? Or I guess maybe the 4th option is Bill Zito finds a way to keep them all. Let us know in the chat. We'll throw that poll up. Brandon Rewucki's going to jump on with us right away. Hey, there will be some free agents that will be on the move coming up at the 1st of July. If you are on the move, holler at our friends at Rolly's Transfer for the best in moving services. Family owned and operated for over 60 years in Winnipeg, and the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. Check out their website at rollies.com. Top right corner, you can click request an estimate. Put in the promo code WST for a special deal on moving services and moving supplies, and then let them know when and where you're planning on moving, what needs to be moved, and the friendly staff at Rollies will get you a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove treatment that they're famous for. For all your moving needs, make it Rollies. Find out more, request an estimate today over at rollies.com. Well, we were talking Nate Schmidt, who was always smiling, win, lose, regardless. And that was one of the reasons why the Jets wanted him. Thinking about that great smile made me think about Dr. Terry and St. Vital Dental Center. If you want to get that grin looking like Nate Schmidt after winning the Stanley Cup, St. Vital Dental Center has been serving generations of Winnipeggers with everything from cleanings and checkups all the way to things like more extensive dental surgeries like dental implants. St. Vital Dental Center is a beautiful new facility, 167 St. Anne's, free parking in the back, state-of-the-art equipment, an incredible group of dentists, dental technicians, and staff to help you and your family get in and out quickly and make that smile looking as good as it ever has. StVitalDental.ca for more information or to make an appointment. Tell Dr. Terry and the gang that WST sent you. The Florida Panthers are flooring it right now, drinking a little bit of everything. If you want to add a new mix into your summer cocktail list, head on down to your local Manitoba liquor marts. Of course, keep your eye out for Canadian Club, the original Canadian whiskey, official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. But as we get ready for another great summer weekend, get your hands on the new CC Club Pack, which has 4 Canadian Club and ginger ales, 4 of the half and halves, which is lemonade iced tea, and 4 of the citrus smash. Try them all. They're all phenomenal. A great new addition to your summer spread for the weekend. It's all available at your local Manitoba liquor marts. And just as we bring in Brandon Rewucki, don't forget, folks, to wake up for all your battery needs and head on down to Manitoba Battery. Stop wasting money and paying more at the big box stores, trying a hard time to find a parking spot and all that. Manitoba Battery is your option to shop local, get the best prices in town, saving up to $60 a battery. And they've got the best customer service as well, taking care of you at one of 2 locations, Logan Avenue or Dovercourt Drive in the South End, or delivering those batteries to you for free with any purchase over $60 anywhere inside the perimeter. Give them a phone call or hop online to manitobabattery.com for all your battery needs in store, or simply order online for free delivery throughout the city. All right, we're going to get into the Cup final with our pal Brandon Rewucki coming up right away. This segment brought to you by your Prairie Toyota dealers, who want to remind you to get in and go with the Toyota Tundra. Quality that means it has the strength to take on any challenge, off-road or hauling a heavy load, and it's backed by the peace of mind knowing it's a Toyota. Take the road less traveled in comfort, room for teammates, friends, and gear. Can we talk about how good the Tundra looks as well? Anywhere it goes, it's turning heads. For $154 weekly for 60 months at 5.39% APR with $71.99 down. Hybrid options available. Visit shoptoyota.ca. Brandon Rewucki, host of Skates and Plates and longtime friend of the program, joins us now. That is all she wrote for the 2025 season. Brandon, what were your takeaways from the Cup final? Oh, wait, we got you muted here. Is that on our end, Reem?
I don't think so. I think it's him. I think
there
he's
we
good
go.
now.
You guys can hear me okay?
We're good. What's going
Perfect. Yeah, no, yeah, doing all right. I mean, my main takeaway was, we already see the post-mortem about how the Edmonton Oilers failed in their bid to get 97 and 29 of Stanley Cup and what they need to do to figure things out and all that stuff. But let's not forget that the Florida Panthers, I would argue, have put 4 of the best franchises in the NHL into complete existential crisis after facing them this postseason. Like, it's not like the Florida Panthers had this cakewalk schedule to a back-to-back Cup win. I thought Tampa Bay was the best team in the postseason going into this year. That was clearly wrong. Toronto's, we don't need to get into that. And then Carolina's doing the whole, can we win with the style that we play? And now the Oilers are facing some serious questions of their own. I think this is just ultimately, when you talk about why those teams failed, why they didn't win the Stanley Cup, I really think it is less about what each of those teams did and just the fact that we are witnessing maybe the best team in the last 25, 30 years. I mean, the dynasty stuff, and of course, Matthew Tkachuk would bring that up himself unprompted. That's a different conversation. But as far as just like specific teams that have won the trophy, these guys are right there with some of the best, certainly in the salary cap era. But at this point, we need to start discussing just where they sit in the all-time rankings, because they are flawless and they just put boots to ass all postseason long to a couple really, really strong teams.
Yeah, I mean, listen, people's definition of dynasty is sometimes a little different. You certainly had the 4 in a row for the Islanders. I mean, the Oilers in the 80s, also a dynasty. Were the Blackhawks a dynasty, winning, 3 in 6 years? I'm not sure that that's the case. I will say this. There's only been 2 teams since the 80s that have gone to 3 straight finals. And Tampa did it. Leaning back, part of it was in the bubble with the shortened season. So, I mean, I think, unfortunately for them, that takes a little bit away from it. And then there's the Panthers. And your point, Brandon, about the road to make this happen, taking out Tampa, taking out the Leafs, the Hurricanes, and then Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl getting another crack at the Panthers. And I think a lot of people thought that, that experience last year would have been what they needed to put them over the top this year. This Panther team was even better than the one last year.
Yeah, that's it. Like it was a different beast. And I mean, they needed superhuman McDavid to push that one to 7 when he's just, best player in the world McDavid. It's not good enough against this team. And I mean, you talk about Brad Marchand going into prime Marchand mode this postseason. I mean, Seth Jones is going to go down as, I know Marchand's getting all the plaudits and rightfully so, but Seth Jones is going to go down as one of the best trade deadline moves of all time as well. I mean, and you want to talk about teams trying to figure out what they're doing, but like to see what he was able to do from coming over from Chicago. I mean, Florida just picked up a top pair defenseman. Like for relatively little.
And got Chicago to keep $2 million a year. Like there's 5 years left on the deal. They're going to give him $10 million to play for the Panthers. And he's on the books for $7 million. Listen, it was a good bit of business. If Spencer Knight turns into a great player, that's good for the Blackhawks and where they're going. And listen, the situation for Seth Jones in Chicago was pretty ugly for everybody in that room. But you're right. Florida is a place that a lot of players want to go. They know they're going to have a chance to win. There's a lot of built-in positives to being there. He had already signed his contract, so he was getting his money one way or the other. And he really came out and played some of the best hockey of his career and was able to raise his level, which brings me to Ekblad. Let me put this to you. I just asked the why not question of the day to everybody in the chat. They've got $19 million of cap space. Sam Bennett just won the Conn Smythe. He's going to get a number, or if he wants to go to July 1st, we'll have plenty of suitors and we'll get a number that way beyond what, any analytics predictions would make just because of his relatively low scoring numbers in the regular season. You've got Brad Marchand that the ageless wonder, 37 years old, one of the best players in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And then Aaron Ekblad, who, it was surprising. I was like, he's only 29 years old. I mean, this is not a guy that's 33, 34 at the end of the road. All unrestricted free agents. How do you see this playing out, Brandon? And who's the least likely to be back in a Panther uniform, in your opinion?
I think I would go with Marchand. Especially because he won now too, where it's like, hey, he had he gave the Bruins a pretty big sweetheart deal the last go around. Maybe chase the bag a little bit here, right? You got your second cup, and you're never going to have more negotiating power when it comes to a contract like this. So, the only way it would work is if he took a substantial pay cut, and possible, but I just don't know if I see that as the likeliest option there. But I do think they're going to keep both Bennett and Ekblad. And it's wild because Bennett's going to leave a ton of money on the table if he stays with Florida. But again, I mean, that's a team that really gave him the opportunity. Like, they believed in him when nobody else really did, right? Like they brought him in at the deadline. They gave him an opportunity on the second line, and it's worked out amazingly for both sides there. So I don't think we'll see the $10 million if and when he does sign with Florida. But I don't know. That just seems to me like a match made in heaven between both sides there, and why change it? Although I guess an extra $2 million a year might be able to do so. And then with Ekblad, I mean, the franchise that drafted you number one, you've been there the last 10 years. It seems to me like now that you've won back to back, and we saw this with the Bombers too, in a sense, where it's like, yeah, you can go out there and maybe pick up a couple extra mil over the course of a 5, 6, 7 year deal. But like the allure to chase immortality with the same group together, that's a tough one to pass up. And I think in Bennett and Ekblad's case, I think they're going to be pretty happy with the situation that they find themselves in, and then maybe sacrifice a bit of money to chase another couple cracks at it.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you. I mean, we can't ignore the age here. And I mean, apparently Marchand is going to be looking for an excess of 8 a year and on a 4-year deal, which is going to take him to 41 years old. And like I said, I can't say that he hasn't earned it. And if there's someone willing to pay it, I mean, go for it. But if the Panthers, as great as Marchand was and how much they loved him and how much he fit in there, if he's looking for top UFA compensation, I think they have to sort of look the other way and bring back Bennett and bring back Ekblad. And whether it's at the deadline or through free agency, get another player with some edge that can go in and be a big part of that third line. But it does seem like it's likely that Brad Marchand is the guy that, you know, because he'd had been making 6.125 for the last 8 years as a star in the league, this final crack at it, he's looking to break the bank. And why wouldn't he, now that he's got a second Stanley Cup ring and is going into free agency at a perfect time after showing everybody that he is so far from being washed, and there's a lot of great hockey left in him.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting too, like just from the team perspective on offering him a contract like that is, and again, you get into this whole how much do you pay for playoffs versus regular season stuff, because his point totals in Boston dipped dramatically the last 4 years, obviously, as you get into your late 30s. But he was, you know, kind of like the Bennett, where it's, you know, you might get 50, 60 points during the regular season, but can you guarantee a 20-point playoffs out of them? And then how much do you kind of put that into the equation there? I mean, 4 years, I get that we're seeing guys like Perry and, you know, a select few deliver some good value into their late 30s, early 40s. That I don't know if that's a deal that I'd be too interested in chasing there as far as term goes. But even 2 years at $8 million, I'd be probably interested in something like that. But I'm kind of with you there, where it's like the perfect storm that's created here. I mean, if he would have just stayed in Boston and things kind of played out, maybe he doesn't even play for the Bruins after the deadline there, he's probably looking at like a 1 or 2 year deal worth $4 or $5 million because of how poor his season went with the Bruins. But the fact that you can parlay this into X amount more term and dollars here, it's, I just think it might be too much for him and his camp to pass up.
Let's move over to the Oilers side of things. Bouchard's an RFA. He's going to do big money. Differing opinions on whether he's worth it. And then, of course, McDavid, who is eligible for an extension in July. I doubt that happens this summer. The Draisaitl deal went in September, so maybe they try and do something in and around the start of next year. But especially thinking about what they did last year on July 1st, signing Skinner, signing Arvidsson, doing those deals and putting them in a situation that cost them Broberg and Holloway. To me, this offseason, or just the future of Edmonton, probably as intriguing as anywhere in the league, with the future of the biggest superstar in the league combined with the team that is really, really close. They're the team to beat in the West, but hasn't been able to match up in a 7-game series against this juggernaut in South Florida.
Yeah, you know, it's. I was thinking about this last night, and it's funny to say for a team that was 2 wins away from a Stanley Cup, but what a nightmare offseason, and like just moves that set up the team to where they were at, and they still found themselves on the precipice of winning the Stanley Cup. But I mean, just simply the losses of Broberg and Holloway, would they have made the difference in them winning the Stanley Cup? Probably not, but at least it sets you up for a better crack at things next year and gives you a little bit more options moving forward, right? I think, to me, though, it's very clear what needs to be done. How they go about doing that is going to be the difficult part in all of this. And we've seen I shouldn't say teams, but we've seen a team built like the Oilers win before. And that's obviously the Penguins. Even if you just want to say the, 16, 17 versions that went back to back, it's pretty obvious what these Oilers are missing from those Penguins. And that would be they're missing their Phil Kessel and they're missing their Fleury/Murray. So that's really the only differences between these two teams is that they need that tertiary scoring option where you don't
mean
need
Zach Hyman?
Yeah, well, yeah, but even then though, Hyman to me is more of like a complementary player on either a McDavid or a Draisaitl line. He's not somebody that I think would drive a line all on his own. And I just think it was clear that there were no realistic options to get a goal for Edmonton this Stanley Cup final if McDavid and Draisaitl weren't the main benefactors of setting that up. So I mean that's going to be a big challenge for them to try to figure that out.
What's so weird about that, Brandon, is that wasn't the case in the rest of the playoffs. Like, how many times did we talk about, the Oilers have finally arrived because they're guys other than Draisaitl and McDavid that were contributing the way they were. And again, at a certain point, you just have to tip your cap to what Florida did because Edmonton was shut down in a way that Dallas, Vegas, and the LA Kings, three, I would say, amongst the best defensive teams in the National Hockey League, were not able to do even close to the level that Florida did in a majority of games in the Cup final.
But if they had that third option, maybe they could have mitigated the damage the Marchand-Lundell line delivered to them. Because that was really the line that buried them all series long. Barkov and up until Game 6, Barkov and Tkachuk were just, no-shows on the score sheet, right? And so maybe there it could have given you a bit of a lift. But I mean, the main thing is the obvious one that we all know and see. It's organizational malpractice to have Skinner Picard as your goaltending duo through 2 years of McDavid and Draisaitl's prime. Like you need better. Like he seems like a really nice guy. He's had moments in the playoffs, but save percentage wise, he has, I think, 4 of the worst playoff runs we've seen out of a goalie that's played at least 10 games over the last 20 or so years. Ranks in like the bottom 10 of most statistical categories. Like there were so many times they just needed saves. Like that's it. There's going to be breakdowns. Florida's going to get chances. Like that. This is kind of how hockey works. But like you need stops, and Bob gave that in a big way to Florida. But you're not going to beat the Panthers 4 out of 7 times if you need to score 4 goals a game each time, regardless of how much offensive talent you have on your team. So that to me is priority number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here is, again, I don't know how they do it, but you need to upgrade that goaltending position to where it's even average, gives you a better chance, right? And if you only need to score 3 goals as opposed to 4 against a team like the Panthers in the back stages of the playoffs, you feel so much better about your chances there. But they just, and I get that they're the best in the world, but you just put so much pressure on McDavid and Draisaitl to deliver at all world levels each and every night. And even for players like that, it's difficult for them to do consistently on a game-to-game basis. And just notching off a goal or 2 in a couple of those games probably would have made a mountain of difference. And we're probably talking about a Game 7, to be honest.
I mean, there's no better example of the goaltending is voodoo theory than what happened in the pipes for the Edmonton Oilers. I mean, there are times where Stuart Skinner looked like a guy that, was borderline ECHL caliber. Loses a job. Pickard gets hurt, comes back in and lets in 1 goal in 3 games and goes back-to-back shutouts. I mean, I don't really know how to explain it other than we can look at goaltenders and over a long course of play, the best will rise to the top. But even the best have moments where they're not on their game. And Bobrovsky might be the best example. What were we saying about that contract in the first half of it? This is maybe the worst contract in hockey. I can't believe they've got him for $10 million. And you would have thought that, maybe those last few years of the deal were the ones that were really going to be ugly. He's been in the Cup 3 years in a row and just won a second ring. So, I mean, if there was a clear, obvious way that you could go the route of, okay, we're going to get this guy and he's going to be elite and that is it, great. But it's been shown over and over again that it's a hell of a lot easier said than done. And for the Oilers, they needed more of the good Skinner than the bad Skinner. But even these last two games, I mean, I don't hang it on goaltending, especially when the Oilers did nothing offensively.
Yeah, and I mean, they trailed for 90% of this. It was like 240 minutes to 30, right? Like it's not that they lost it specifically because they couldn't get a save, but they also could have won it if they did get saves, right? Like, yes, they were getting outplayed, but it wasn't like, I mean, if you could have got an extra stop in game 2 against Florida, like that could be the difference. That I don't know. I just think that when you're talking about the inconsistencies in Skinner's game, that's because he's an average goalie. And, yes, Bob had up and downs with Florida, but like they signed a guy that had won a couple Vezinas. It wasn't like they plucked him, off the streets and were hoping for the best for $10 million a year. Like, his ceiling was as high as it could get in the NHL. Skinner is not going to reach that regardless, right?
How many times did Bob lose his job as a $10 million goalie? I mean, they went and they got Spencer Knight. They were playing him. Heck, when they went to the Cup the first time, it was Alex Lyon that was playing. And now Bobrovsky is a back-to-back Stanley Cup champion. I mean,
but I think we're still talking. I know it wasn't always smooth sailing for him in Florida, but like, he's a Hall of Fame goalie. So
now he is, absolutely.
Well, but like
2 years ago, would we have said that?
No, but it was just like, I think it's clear to say now it was more of just there was a bit of a lull in his high-level performance for a few years. But what he's done since then and before then, that's a guy that's a Hall of Fame level talent. I'm not saying the Oilers need to get somebody of that caliber, but at the very least, it's got to be an improvement over Skinner and Pickard, right? Like, you need more there. And even if it ended up being that Skinner is your backup, if you could find a way to make that work cap wise, we've heard John Gibson's name forever in trade rumors and kind of here and there linked with Edmonton. And Gibson certainly has his own warts. And, is he going to be healthy enough to play over the course of 82 games of the playoffs and all that? But like that's a sizable upgrade over what they have right now. So I just think there's going to be risks no matter who you acquire, because you're not going to be getting one of the top 5 goalies in the NHL, but it's better than what you've got. And it's, I think, evident right now that you're just not going to find a way to beat this Panthers team. And I just think, for me, if I have to try to win a cup with McDavid and Draisaitl, I'm aiming my sights a little bit higher than what the Oilers have thrown in the crease the past 2 seasons.
Rashog, I believe, reporting that the expected number for a Bouchard extension might be starting with 11. Can they do that?
Well, I'm sure they can. Should they is maybe the better question. I mean, I made the Pittsburgh comparison before. He is pretty much the new Chris Letang, where it's like, offensively, you're going to get everything you could hope for out of a number 1 D-man. There are going to be 4 or 5 plays every couple of months where you're like, what have you played hockey? Like, there's going to be some mistakes that are just so mind-numbingly stupid that you wonder if it's all worth it in the end with the talent that he has, right? Personally, I think I try to live with someone like that. I believe he outscored everybody in the playoffs not named McDavid Draisaitl. Like, for all his warts, Evan Bouchard delivers when his team needs it. You just have to live with some of those mistakes. Like, that's just part of the package there. So I get there's going to be a lot of sticker shock at the number that he's going to command. I just think that's a dicey move, man, to try to potentially move off somebody like that and then think that Ekholm, Wallman, Nurse, Kulak is going to be the basis of a championship quality decor. I don't know. I know there's going to be some times where you're left scratching your head thinking, how could you make a play like that at this time? But at the same moment, He's a big time catalyst for their power play, and he's a big time driver of offense on their back end there. And I just don't know if they're going to find a way to replace him. I'll tell you what, though, if you had Broberg, maybe this is a different discussion. But the Arvidsson Skinner contracts were just too tempting to pass up. So this is another situation where the Oilers have put themselves in, and there's no easy answer either way.
Bouchard is an RFA with arbitration rights. And of course, Darnell Nurse is making $9.25 for another 5 years. And if those two guys are adding up to $20 million, and you have to find presumably a max contract with the max percentage of the cap allowed for Connor McDavid on top of 14 for Draisaitl, you get into very, very unfamiliar territory for teams that have won, where so much of your cap is put into a small handful of players and what that does everywhere else. Listen, both of these teams off season is going to be really interesting. And then everybody chasing them, including the team right here in Winnipeg, making moves in and around it. It's going to be a really interesting couple of weeks, Brandon. And now at least we're at it, despite not getting our seventh game between the two. Great stuff as always. What's cooking? Are you like us? Now we're going to start talking draft, going to start talking free agency, and obviously the Ehlers watch continues over at Skates and Plates like it does here.
That's right. Yeah. No, Mount Rushmore season is over because there's stuff to talk about again. So, it's pretty much just a mixture of all that. I mean, the NHL season's bizarre where it kind of heats up now at this point because the draft's 8-9 days away. So the rumor mill, all that good stuff is flying in full gear. So yeah, plenty to get into here. And just when you thought it was closed too, maybe the Ehlers door opened ajar with some of the reports, right? So it's like, we got to do this song and dance all over again. So it'll be good times when we cut back at it on Friday morning.
We're definitely here for any ounces of positivity on a potential extended future with the Winnipeg Jets with Nikolai Ehlers. But as we did the poll earlier this week, I think the longer this goes and what we've heard of potentially getting to July 1, there's going to be some money out there for Nick. And just the big question is whether he's going to feel like the grass is greener elsewhere or got a better chance to win and continue being a huge part of a good team here in the Peg. We'll hook it up next week as we get closer to draft day, pal. Thanks for doing this.
Sounds great. Have a good one, guys. We'll talk soon.
All right, let's get to fan feedback brought to you by Fans First, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market with no fees. What you see is what you pay at Fans First. And of course, Fans First was busy all season long for buying and selling Jets tickets. You can now get Winnipeg Blue Bomber tickets on Fans First as well. So if you're having a tough time finding the seats you want or having a couple extra pairs you want to get rid of, use Fans First with no fees. By fans, for fans, no fees. So we asked which of the Panther free agents was most likely to leave. We've been talking about that with Brandon. Looks like the chat's agreeing with us. Brad Marchand, 48%. Listen, 38 years old, brilliant this year, but the demand, the cost, the length of term, and the other guys they have to sign, I would lean in that direction as well. 24% said none, they re-signed them all, and that would be some wizardry from Bill Zito. I would not rule it out. 24% to you there. 18% said Aaron Ekblad, and 8% said Sam Bennett, your Conn Smythe Trophy winner. Always appreciate the feedback. Keep it coming with your thoughts on both the Oilers and the Panthers as we move into the offseason. We're going to focus probably a little bit more on the Winnipeg Jets after getting Ken Wiebe's take on the Stanley Cup final in our next segment. Of course, we are always brought to you in part by our friends at Princess Auto, proud sponsors of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and Winnipeg Sports Talk. 3 locations in the city of Winnipeg and Manitoba, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, and out in Brandon. Of course, Princess Auto is where you find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. Pop by and see him. And again, you can shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. Well, the summer is officially here. I guess not quite official. We may have a couple more days, but hockey season and the Cup is over. That means it's time to hit the golf course and get onto the water. And if you are thinking about a world-class fly-in fishing experience this year, why not stay in the province and enjoy the Aikens Lake experience, where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg, including a short flight. And as amazing as the world-class fishing is, the hospitality from the Aikens team and the Turan family may be even better than that. Go to aikenslake.com for more information on options and availability for the 2025 fishing season, and make sure to check them out online or on all the social channels, I should say, at Aikens Lake for more of what the Aikens experience is all about. And hey, wedding season also officially here, gang. Guys, if you're looking in your closet, realize you need to up your menswear game. Head on down to F Apparel at 190 Smith Street. Custom suits starting at $400. Chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles. The best selection of menswear accessories around. And hey, if you are in a wedding party or getting married, make sure to talk to the fellas at F about that special discount for the wedding party when the boys get the suits for the big day at F Apparel. 190 Smith Street downtown. Check them out online or make an appointment for a fitting at F. That's EPH apparel.com. All right, we'll be talking a little Sea Bears later on. We got a little golf convo heading into the Travelers and a recap of the U.S. Open with Pat Gregoire. But we've got Kenny Wiebe locked and loaded with us right now. And this segment's brought to you by Ben Moss. Ben Moss, proudly Canadian-owned and operated with history dating back more than 100 years. 3 locations in Winnipeg: Polo Park Shopping Center, St. Vital Center, and Kildonan Place. Ben Moss is committed to customer satisfaction, so check out a large selection of Canadian mined diamonds, lab-grown diamonds, and mined diamonds available with payment plans to suit your needs. For more information, check out benmoss.com. Ben Moss, because love is timeless. Let's welcome in Ken Wiebe of the Winnipeg Free Press to us. Kenny, Cup final in the books. Before we kind of look ahead and talk Winnipeg Jets, what were your big takeaways from the back-to-back championship of Paul Maurice's Panthers?
Yeah, Andrew, great to be with you as always. Just an impressive showing, Huss. I mean, like, the Oilers made, pretty good quick work of the Western Conference, and we know the Western Conference was no picnic this year. And quite frankly, they were, they gave it their all, but Huss, they were outclassed. I mean, they barely had a lead in this entire series. It was as lopsided as it gets. And hey, Sergei Bobrovsky had plenty to do with that. 220 goals against average, really good save percentage again. But they are the gold standard. They are the gold standard for depth. They are the gold standard for defensive zone commitment. They are they're the gold standard for culture and buy-in and everything that every team in the NHL wants to be. That's what the Florida Panthers are. And it wasn't an easy path to get there. They were a President's Trophy winner not long before this run of 3 consecutive trips to the final began. They had a lot of heartache along the way, but they found their formula, and their formula is working pretty well right now, Huss. And now it's very tough to say, there's the formula. Now 31 other teams use that formula and try to win the Cup. I mean, but there are certainly going to be lessons that the Jets and, the 30 other teams are going to be trying to drill into and, dig into their analytics and the formula. But just incredibly impressive. I mean, Huss, they could have had, there's 3 easy choices for the Conn Smythe. If you look under the hood a little deeper, Gustav Forsling, the job that he did against Connor McDavid, also could have had consideration in a different year. Bobrovsky easily in another year could have won it. I know you asked, my pal Sean, and you've been asking people all week. I mean, it was literally a coin flip between Marchand and Sam Bennett, and all of a sudden you look, there's Sam Reinhart, rolling in with a four goal special and getting himself right in that conversation as well. So like right there's 5 guys, and never mind Carter Verhaeghe, the playoff that he had. The fact that the third line of Anton Lundell, Eetu Luostarinen, and Brad Marchand combined for 57 points. 57, Huss, in the playoffs. 57 points in 23 games is exceptional. So they basically had 3 first lines. And that line, that we talked about, with he was the one basically that Leon Draisaitl, shouted out in his post game, which was brief and relatively angry and understandably angry, but and I'm not trying to make light of it, but that line was fantastic. So we talked all year about how that Adam Lowry line was one of the best, if not the best, in the NHL. Now, after the trade deadline, Brad Marchand was hurt and didn't play for a while. There's no disputing who the best third line in the NHL was in the Stanley Cup playoffs. It belonged to the Florida Panthers, and that's going to be the standard for every team in the NHL when this new season begins. So just incredibly impressive. And sorry to ramble, but I mean, Paul Maurice, I can't say this enough, Huss. I mean, I understand some people have different feelings towards Paul Maurice. But the narrative surrounding Paul Maurice was done and isn't a good coach. That one hasn't aged super well. He's done an exceptional job in his 3 years with the Panthers, and as I said last year, deserving to be on the Cup. And quite frankly, he was quick to deflect any praise in the post-game interviews. Paul has done an exceptional job in the circumstances that he is under, and he should be applauded for that, even though I understand some folks may not feel that way.
Yeah, listen, hey, it's about winning, and Maurice got the results. I mean, he came in and took over a team that came to that was already in the Stanley Cup final without him, and managed to win back-to-back cups. And I mean, you have to tip your cap. I mean, listen,
they were a great team, but they didn't play this way. Right. So that's why I think everyone's saying, he just inherited this great group. Well, yes, they were a great group in the regular season, but he has got them to play and buy into the way that he wanted the Jets to buy into and how the Jets are buying into now, Huss. So I don't like that narrative either, that he just inherited this great team and just opens up the door and those guys go out. There was a lot of coaching that has transpired in the last 3 years here.
Yeah, well, the funniest thing is he was the one that basically started that narrative by, and again, I mean, it's typical Maurice. I mean, he's always got a ton to say and said, hey, I just walked in and took over this team. And
right.
But you are right. I mean, he did do that. And listen, I watching that team play throughout the playoffs, not just in the Cup final, with the edge that they play with, it really does remind me of the early Jet teams that he took over. I'm not saying that those Jet teams were as good as the Florida Panthers, but that edge. I mean, we always remember, how much the Jets how much time they were spending in the penalty box. And Maurice said, yeah, well, guess what? We're going to take a lot of penalties. And it wasn't until they couldn't kill any of them that they all of a sudden needed to dial that back a little bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, to play at that level with the Panthers, that the Panthers have shown, you need to have an incredibly talented team that can match up against everybody else, but have that level of nasty that helps you dominate teams in best-of-7 series. And I'm not sure there's been a better example of that in the last 20, 25 years than this team that's partying at the Elbow Room right now.
Yeah, I think the live shots at the Elbow Room, you could probably turn that into a pretty hefty pay-per-view, Huss, right now. But yeah, I mean, so this is what I'm saying. So just one example, Jonah Gadjevich, Huss, did not appear in a single playoff game last year for the Florida Panthers. This year he played in most of them. And Huss, after the first goal was scored and before the second, Gadjevich had the best scoring chance of the entire period after the one-on-one, ridiculous goal by Reinhart. So, yeah, you're 100% right. So depth, absolutely critical for the Panthers. They essentially subbed out their entire fourth line at one point, right? So all of those guys got action. They had, I think, 22 skaters and 23 players appear in the playoffs. Balinskis, Uvis Balinskis, their seventh defenseman, probably could be in the top 6 of every team in the NHL. Only got into a little bit of action. The standard that, they're just playing at an incredible level, and you can't have that without the buy-in. And Huss, we talked all year. It's hard when you're trying to defend. It's hard. We heard all year long, and it was true when the Jets were in first overall for the majority of the year. they were getting everyone's best. But Florida had that from game 1 right through 82, and then 23 more in the playoffs. So their ability to, find, play at a high enough level to get in and then elevate when it really mattered, I think is another lesson that the Jets and other teams can learn from this run of sustained success. And I've touched on it before. Panthers heartache they're not far removed from that heartache, Huss. I mean, they got steamrolled by the Lightning.
They were Tampa's bitch for a good 4, 5, 6 years. I mean, they were a good team that couldn't get out of their own division, Ken, until they did.
So this is what I'm talking about. So again, this is what I'm writing about. Lessons to be learned. It's that time of year, and yes, slow season, sure, but I mean, there's a lot of things that you can look under the hood. And we talked a lot about Hellebuyck last week. The year before this run happened, Bob's goals against the Lightning, it was over 5. So everyone freaking out about Hellebuyck going 313 or whatever it ended up being. I mean, look at Bobrovsky now at 36. He is the best playoff performer in the NHL. So as we talked about last week, things to come on the horizon. It's not going to happen automatically for Hellebuyck. But because he hasn't reached that Bobrovsky playoff level by 32, does not mean he cannot reach that level at some point over the course of the contract. So, I'd asked Hellebuyck about, watching Bob, and he didn't really want to get into it, or didn't really get into it, other than saying it had been a great rematch so far. But I mean, if you're around Connor Hellebuyck, if you're Wade Flaherty, if you're Ray Petkow, if you're the people who work closest, if you're working with him, you're showing video of Bobrovsky. And, Connor talked openly about the roller coaster of emotions. For the recency bias folks who weren't paying attention, Bob lost the starting job to Alex Lyon.
I just said the same thing to Rewucki 20 minutes ago.
This is nuts. Like people were, like you talked about with me last week, worst contract in hockey. Now, who's saying that now? Absolutely nobody is saying that now, nor should they be. So this is all to say that, we talk about the goalie is voodoo and whatever else, things change quickly. But I think there's a great example there for Connor Hellebuyck to look, and he's obviously going to be in the lab working his ass off, but here is the standard for playoff success, and this is someone who is doing it well into his mid to late 30s. I mean, we heard Stuart Skinner. I mean, he didn't want to get into it either, but Skinner talked openly about wanting to grow into what Bobrovsky has done. But Huss, I'm writing about it now. His first 6 trips, he had one good playoff. And that was the year that they bounced the Lightning, right? That was the year that the Lightning had the best regular season record in history before the Bruins, broke the record. They swept them in the first round in Columbus, right? So, sometimes it just takes one series to kind of get this snowball of momentum going. And hey, I get it. I mean, lots of talk at Edmonton about goaltending, Huss, but I mean, Jake Ottinger was great against the Jets. He got outplayed by Stuart Skinner. And then Skinner went up against the best playoff performer right now. Yes, Vasilevsky's had 2 cups before him, sure. But right now, you can't dispute it. I mean, so it's not as easy as A plus B equals C. But anyways, it's just all to say that incredible hockey. And, the Oilers are interesting, Huss, because they had all of the elements going into the final. And then their depth scoring just vanished into thin air. I know you've been talking to Dusty a ton. Us beyond McDavid, who only had 1 goal, even though he was impactful, and Draisaitl, where did the offense go? I mean, and this is a team that is well built. This is a well-built team that just ran up against a team that checks so hard that they, and this is again why I'm saying there's comparisons to be made. All year we heard Scott Arniel talk about defending the guts of the ice. What did Florida do? They absolutely did not allow the Oilers any time in the guts of the ice. So, garbage time goal by Bud Coles, and congratulations. He got it from the area you need to get to. The game was over at that point, and they didn't get to that point nearly enough in this series, and that's part of the reason they lost. Evander Kane did an exceptional job in the first, 2.5, 3 rounds, Huss. But again, this is what always bothers me about the LTIR talk and this whole thing. Oh yeah, guys are just taking the year off. And Huss, you cannot. Nikita Kucherov is a unicorn. When he took the season off and came back and was great, that's because he's one of the best 5 players in the NHL. Evander Kane was great for a good chunk of the first 3 rounds and invisible in the 4th round. And why are we surprised? Evander Kane is in his 30s and didn't play a single game this year, had multiple surgeries. So, I mean, again, to expect him to stay at that level, I think is unrealistic based on what he endured with his body. You can't just hop in the playoffs and think you're going to be a dominant force, even when you have that power forward body that Kane has.
I'll be on the other side of that, to be honest with you. I mean, I think that being off all year, I think was a huge bonus for Kane, and I think he came out and played. Like, I just give credit
not in the
to
final.
the Panthers.
Not in the final, it wasn't Huss.
No, but
he was
listen,
nowhere to be found.
No, yeah, but I don't attribute that to all of a sudden, oh, he played 3 rounds and now he can't do it anymore. I think they just got waxed by a way better hockey team and they didn't have an answer for. I mean, like, did Connor McDavid just all of a sudden not be as good as he was before? No, they got shut down by the best, deepest, most complete team in hockey. That's where I'm at.
That's totally fair, Huss. But Huss, the last time Evander Kane and Matthew Tkachuk went head-to-head, Matthew Tkachuk was the guy that was nowhere to be found. This playoff final, he was playing on one leg, and even though he didn't get a whole lot accomplished through the first 3 games, he was all over the place. And Kane, I get it. On the 4th line, you want to make, want to say, oh, well,
he
my
also
ice
took
time
so
is
many
down.
stupid penalties that
This is what I'm
basically took
talking
him
about.
out.
For sure. And again, I'm not blaming Evander Kane. Evander Kane had lots of company on guys who needed to produce. And Huss, what did I tell you before the series started when I chose Panthers in 6? Zach Hyman's absence.
Oh.
This is absolutely massive in the the end of the season for the Edmonton Oilers. And I'm not going to compare them as players because they're not similar. But Huss, this is exactly what happened to the Panthers. Tkachuk was hurt against Vegas, but they also were missing Luostarinen in that series against Vegas, and they got steamrolled. Huss, Jackie Redmond had a great stat posted yesterday. There were 2 players that had more even strength points. Luostarinen, 19 of his 19 points, all at even strength. The only 2 players who had more in this playoff were 97 and 29 for the Oilers. That's ridiculous when you look at what happened with Marchand, Bennett, Reinhart, Verhaeghe, Barkov, all of these guys. It's nuts. And these are 3rd line players. Like, they had 3 first lines essentially, and they weren't scared to play the 4th line. So lots to learn. And again, the Oilers had a great season, Huss, but that is a feeling of emptiness when you wake up today. And sorry, lastly, before we turn the page, and I know you posted about it too. I mean, the look on Nate Schmidt's face, Huss, having spent time around Nate Schmidt during his time with the Jets, I mean, the guy got bought out last year. There wasn't exactly a long lineup for his services. He took basically just over the league minimum. And then he had an outstanding playoff, 3 goals, 11 points. Like, that look on his face. I love the interview with Elliot and David. Just like us, we know Nate is rarely tongue-tied, but like, he was the latest player to go through that feeling of you wait your whole life for it, you get it, and you're basically like, well, holy smokes. Like, it's always more overwhelming than you think it's going to be. But he is the picture of how you act when you get bought out. And again, Nate knew it wasn't necessarily a performance issue. His contract just wasn't, in line with a 3rd role or 3rd pairing guy. So, that happens. It's happened to star players like Brad Richards and others over the years. We get it. But what he did was worked his behind off all summer long, got back to, skating the way he had when he was in Vegas. And he had a great year. And, I had the chance to talk to him in November when the Jets were playing at Florida. He was talking about it. I mean, to have someone, and even too, I thought, I automatically thought, well, he spent all this time with Maurice. It was only a couple of months together for them. Remember, before he resigned. So, but they had an organization that believed in him, and he did an exceptional job. So, anyways, just hats off to, like, literally one of the nicest people in hockey. went through a pretty tough thing, and instead of hanging his bottom lip or feeling sorry for himself, basically had the best year he could have, and it ends up now he's the one getting his name engraved. And I love the way that the Panthers handled this, and I love the fact that they, no offense to Seth Jones, Huss, but giving Nate the cup first after Barkov, absolutely classy move, and it was the right move.
Yeah, listen, I think there's a lot of Jet fans that are pumped for Nate. I mean, he was such a popular guy. He's the ultimate vibes guy. And listen, it was, good
and now he's the ultimate Blizzard guy, Huss. Now he's the ultimate Blizzard guy.
No kidding. By the way, I got to shout out Boring Sean Monahan with the contribution to the chat of the day. Sam Bennett right at home in the elbow room.
Oh, that's
well
pretty
done.
Good stuff. Well played.
Done,
yeah,
Sean.
Well played. Well played.
Listen, I want to ask you about the Jets, but real quickly,
Sure.
I mean, they got some big free agents. They got Brad Marchand, they got Sam Bennett, they've got Aaron Ekblad.
Yeah.
Ekblad, I'm kind of surprised he's only 29 years old. It seems like he's been around forever, but I guess when you come in at 18 as a number 1 overall pick, here you are. How do you see this working out? I mean, we kind of asked, and I'm kind of feeling that Marchand's, if one of the guys is going to leave, he's the most likely to leave just because of his age and what is reported that he wants in excess of $8 a year for a 4-year deal. But how do you see, I mean, listen, I know all those guys will want to stay. How do you think this shakes out? Who's most likely to return for the quest for a three-peat of that group of 3?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably between Bennett and Ekblad, with all due respect to Marchand. Marchand would have to take less. And again, I'm not saying he has to take $1 million or anything crazy like that, but he would have to sacrifice the most in order to stick around. Mm-hmm. I would say Bennett is the most likely to stay out of the group. And again, no offense to Ekblad, but we know that Ekblad also had the thing with Ekblad that's tough for him is the suspension, right? At the end of the year of the regular season. Now, also, too, he played his best hockey when he returned, and every single team that's trying to win, you know what they'd love to have, us? A 6'5" defenseman who is an absolute beast and also can play on the first power play. So if again, Bill Zito has been incredibly creative. I think he does potentially find a way to get 2 out of the 3, but I think at least one is gone, and it wouldn't be surprising if a second player is gone in free agency just based on the influx of money into the pool. But what I think I was looking at Puckpedia, I think the Panthers have around $16 million available. So, if Bennett is being offered $10 million somewhere, which again are reports that are out there, it would be hard to sign both, 2 of those 3 if that is what he is actually digging his heels in. But all 3 of these, Brad Treliving, we're not far removed from Brad Treliving say he'd like to change the DNA of the Leafs. Any of those 3 players would change the DNA dramatically. Now, again, sometimes the word dynasty was getting tossed around, and for me, 3 trips in a row, it's damn impressive, Huss, in the salary cap era. That is not a dynasty to me. Dynasties are Islanders and Oilers of the 80s, not getting to the cup 3 times and winning 2. 3 and 5 you can make the case for, I think, Huss. I think that's totally, I think it's fair to look at them in that light. I would say there's still a bit of gray area. I mean, but I think, I'd like to see how many other teams get to 3 and 5. Right now, they're the best case for a dynasty, with all due respect to the Lightning and the Panthers in this decade here. But yeah, I mean, it's just darn impressive. But I mean, that's the other part. It's tough to keep all those pieces and to bring back the band every single year. I mean, we saw it with the Hawks. I mean, the Jets were a direct beneficiary of the early Hawks Cup in terms of Andrew Ladd and Dustin Byfuglien becoming available because of the squeeze. Now, the Panthers benefit from the cap going up to 95.5. But again, if you're Sam Bennett, Huss, do you sacrifice? Let's just use the number $8 million. So would you take $8 million with the Panthers instead of $10 million somewhere else, knowing that you could be part of a dynasty? I think that's a real question for Bennett, and I do think that he is the most likely to stay. Now, because Ekblad was the first overall pick and all those things, there will be a big push to sign him, Huss. But here's the other part of the facts. I mean, you don't bring in Seth Jones is Aaron Ekblad insurance. Like, quite frankly, like, you don't make that level of commitment unless you are a little bit concerned about Ekblad going out the door. So I would rank them. Bennett, Ekblad, Marchand probably. But I mean, Marchand played so well there and enjoyed himself so much that you could easily see him maybe taking a bit of a haircut. Knowing also too, again, this is not related to what just happened, but I had a great chat with Marchand when he was in, and just listening to him talk about, it was shortly after we were talking a little bit about Four Nations before it was happening. Like, the guy literally had been doing a lot of losing this year for the first time in a while. He basically said he would be happy to fill up the water bottles for Canada at the Four Nations. And he went there and was an absolute force. Then he gets hurt. Boston basically doesn't even get close to his salary expectations. He gets traded, which he thought would never happen. He wanted to be a lifer like his best buddy, Patrice Bergeron. All of a sudden, you get traded to a place where you are rejuvenated and win the cup. So there's going to be some gravitational pull there. And I understand he only, his top end was 6.125. I mean, still pretty good salary for most folks, but I think there's got to be some level of maybe sacrificing a bit of cash at his age, knowing that you might be able to get your name on that cup again, Huss. And again, the Panthers have a $10 million player, yes, but you know what else was important for the Panthers? They had two players that made just over 10 million that were two of their best players the entire playoffs. Sam Bennett at just over 4 and Marchie at 6.125. So, I mean, let's just put it this way. Those two will not combine for 10 million next year. Yeah. That number is going to be higher.
Just to clarify, Panthers have 19 mil available.
19, okay.
But Marchand, Nosek, Bennett, Sturm, and Samoskevich all unsigned, and they've only got 5 defensemen signed for next year. So, right. If you're bringing back a Nate Schmidt, even if it's $1 million, that's going to eat into it. And they don't have a backup goalie signed as well. So count that to basically take you from 19 to 16 or so for your 6D and your backup goalie. And that's where you were looking at. Another interesting comment in chat from PLD or PDJ NYC. I'll happily trade some goals and assists for truculence in the Jets lineup this UFA period /summer. We know that pro sports often is copycat league. We've seen how, to use his word, truculent the Florida Panthers are. How much do you think the Winnipeg Jets and Kevin Cheveldayoff might be on the lookout for more of that in their lineup? And is there any players that you already have your eye on that may be available that you think the Jets might take a run at, Ken?
Yeah, so I mean, that's definitely the next 12 days will be loaded up on that front for sure. I mean, hey, in a perfect world, if you're the Jets, Sam Bennett solves your problem. But now Sam Bennett's line of suitors is going to be quite long, so to even get a seat at that table is going to be challenging. If you can find what I would put it to you this way, Huss, if you can find the next Sam Bennett, that's more likely to be the aisle that the Jets are going to be shopping in. But yeah, I mean, I was talking about this with someone yesterday. So would you rather have Mitch Marner, or would you rather at 14 million, or would you rather have Sam Bennett at 8 million and a $6 million defenseman? I mean, which team is closer to winning the Stanley Cup if you're shopping in that high priced aisle, right? I mean, it's a legit question. The teams will have
never
to be
mind
asking.
a defenseman. Just Marner versus Bennett.
Sure.
Even at the same money, like, let's just say that. Who would you rather have in your lineup in the playoffs? There's a lot of evidence that would suggest Sam Bennett, although he doesn't have anywhere close to the regular season numbers that Mitch has.
No, and that's to your original point. For sure, teams are going to be trying to find more of those players, but as truculent as that group is, they're also incredibly skilled, Huss, right? I mean, they legitimately had 6 players at north of 20 points individually in the playoffs, and they had 2 guys knocking on the door in Luosterainen at 19 and Lundell at 18. That's just ridiculous. That's a ridiculous level of production. A lot of those guys have size and speed and skill. Some of them are bangers. All of them play incredibly hard. And that's why, too, if you're Scott Arniel watching, you can reinforce everything that you said over the course of this year when you were leading and guiding the President's Trophy winners. This is what I'm talking about in terms of backtracking. This is what I'm talking about in terms of commitment. But Huss, what we saw from the Panthers, that commitment took no days off in the postseason. Yeah, they lost some games, and the biggest part about the Panthers, and that came through learning and winning and learning how to win, they never panicked. Like, the amount of people that thought, oh God, the Panthers blew a lead. Oh, they blew 2 leads in the same series. Oh, now they're going to get steamrolled by the Edmonton Oilers. No offense to the Oilers or anyone else. They were as calm after that, that blown third period and overtime as any team you've ever seen. They just showed up the next day, put in their work, and expected to win. They were not panicking. They were not worried. They were not questioning themselves, their beliefs, their structure, their commitment, their system. They went back to work, did what they do, and basically, Sean and I used the boa constrictor term a lot when it came to the Jets and how they defended. The Panthers are the epitome of the boa constrictor in this series against the Oilers. They completely took away the boards, and the Oilers could not get to the guts of the ice. And again, that's why I'm saying when Scott Arniel shows up for training camp, there are going to be a lot of clips that he can show from their own season last year and some of the playoffs that mirror what the Panthers are doing. But also, as you mentioned, they're going to have to, compete was a huge word for Arniel after he took over the job. They'll have to raise their level of compete even higher, even though they did raise it a significant level this year.
Ken Wiebe with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Kenny, just quickly update. What are you hearing on Ehlers? Are we expecting this to go to July 1st? I mean, has the ship sailed on an 8-year deal with the Winnipeg Jets?
Yeah, not sure it's sailed completely, but I mean, again, my point has been the same since we started talking about this, Huss. But when you get this close, you feel like you're obligated to at least listen. But I mean, what we also know is that there will be scuttlebutt about what the other offers are. And, one of the things I wrote about today, the Jets are still well positioned in that one regard, that they can offer that 8th year. And if word is getting around about the potential numbers that other teams are offering, it doesn't take much to do the math on what the 8th year would be worth compared to when it comes to the total outlay of money. The Jets can offer the most total money for a player at 29 years old. There's no disputing that. And I'm with you. I don't see a scenario where we see sign and trade. And for the people who are pointing at the Pierre-Luc Dubois example, RFA versus UFA, completely different scenario. You're not getting that level of return for an Ehlers rights contract to get the bonus year for the player. That's just not how it works for pending UFAs. So I don't see that being the case, but I just would put it this way. I don't think he's completely closed the door, but if he was going to sign, I think the Jets have already made their best offer. I don't see Kevin Cheveldayoff coming in on June 30th and raising it by $1 million. And Huss, I know you mentioned that 8.5 number. And again, there was a time maybe a month ago when I would have been surprised if that had been the offer. But when you look a little bit deeper, Ehlers is 2 years younger right now than when Hellebuyck and when the deal kicked in for Hellebuyck and Scheifele. So to go the 8th year, even though, yes, it would take him to 37, you can make the argument that with the rising cap that that makes sense to offer that extra year. But again, ultimately, I'm standing by what I said from the beginning. I think Ehlers loves Winnipeg and has enjoyed his time here. I just think that it's more likely that he will be moving on. And if that's the case, that's a big hole in the top 6 that the Jets are going to have to fill via trade or free agency, even if things are, inching closer to signing Jonathan Taves for the Jets. We know our pal CJ mentioned Colorado and Winnipeg. I still think that Tampa Bay is in the running, but I still do think that the Jets are the front runner for Toews' services. And I do think it would be a massive coup for the Jets. And again, I'm not just saying this because Brad Marchand is the same age as Jonathan Toews and just had an incredible playoff. But when you look at what Jonathan will bring to the table for the Jets, he's not coming back if he's not healthy enough. He's not coming back to be a bit player. So it's not, don't assume he's going to be 2010 Jonathan Toews. That is not what I am suggesting. What I am suggesting is he can still be an impact player because of all of the things that he does so incredibly well. Intangibles, face-offs, incredible defensive awareness, and he was always an underrated offensive player. So you're not asking Jonathan to carry the team or, be the primary facilitator on the power play, but he can do all of those things if you need him to. And if he plays a complementary role and if his body continues to feel good as the season goes on, I'm not like most of many of the people out there that are saying there's absolutely no chance he can be your second line center. I think it's absolutely absurd to think that I'm not assuming that it happens, but to assume that it can't happen, you don't know Jonathan Toews if that's the case.
I'm with you 100%.
That's poor. That's a bad take.
This guy is not coming back if he doesn't believe that he can be a very good version of himself. He has absolutely nothing left to prove. He's walking straight into the Hall of Fame as soon as he's eligible. So if he does come back, it's because he thinks he can be an impactful player and help a team win and hopefully get back to where he was before. And again, to me, I'm going to give it 2-3 months and see where he's at and what he's able to do. But I am with you. I think it is absolutely foolish to rule out Jonathan Toews for what he's capable of doing. If he's healthy and in a good state of mind, which from all reports that he is. What do you have cooking in the Freep in the next couple of days now that we're officially into the off season?
Yeah, Huss had the Ehlers piece today, and like I said, we're just working on a little what the Jets can learn from the Panthers, and then actually cool story coming in for the weekend. Rich Harden, former big league pitcher, is coming to Optimus Park to do a clinic for the folks in that St. James area, I think. So on Friday and Saturday. So supposed to be connecting with him on Friday. So going to be interesting to have a chat with him. Haven't had the chance to do that previously, and I also covered the Manitoba Marathon on Sunday, which was fun. I hadn't covered the marathon in a while. Huss came up on a pretty fun story, and belated Happy Father's Day to all the pops out there. Was lucky enough to get down to Altona to see Kenny Senior, and
hey, where's the press box for the marathon? Or
no press box. I was down on the field.
Out there on the streets.
Yeah, and it wasn't the elbow room, but the elbows were up trying to get anywhere near the finish line with close to 13,000 participants making their way in various wasn't quite whiteout street party levels of dressing up in costumes, but there were some interesting examples of attire out there. I have to say there was a guy in jean shorts and boots and a flannel cutoff that was rocking a pretty serious mullet out there. Huss almost chose to do the story on him just because of the visuals. But
I saw a dude that ran into the stadium and across the finish line with an inflatable unicorn around him. And apparently that was his punishment for finishing last in his fantasy football league, which was amazing.
You have great friends when that is the punishment.
If you know that guy, reach out to us on Winnipeg Sports Talk. That's deserving of a spot on the show. Hey, folks, go to the Free Press website. Jets Ehlers hot commodity as NHL free agency day looms. The latest from Ken. Weaver, have a great one, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yep, see you tomorrow too, bud. Should be a fun event that you got cooking here.
Absolutely. We're filling it up. The place is sold out. Kenny, cannot wait to see you coming up tomorrow for our big Gold Eyes game. All right, we got Jalen Harris popping by. Pat Gregoire is going to jump on. I got to get Patty's take on JJ Spawn's win at the U.S. Open, and we'll also have details on the poker tourney Monday and what the top 2 placements will have in their future, which could be a stop at the Coolbet Open overseas. We'll fill you in on that. Jalen Harris coming up for a quick chat in just a minute. Hey, our friends at Royal Sports are ready for summer. We're now into the off season. If you're a big Panther guy, you'll probably have back-to-back champions T-shirts and hats in very, very soon. But obviously, all the new Bomber gear is in for the season. And soccer, baseball, softball, tennis, running, bikes, the massive Yeti section. Get ready for summer at Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. And of course, give them a follow on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. Boston Pizza. That playoff menu, I hope, just stays around all summer long because it's that good. But we do, of course, still have the NBA Finals, so you can jump on that and enjoy ice-cold schooners, the triple pep pizza, the wingman pizza, and, of course, the wing flights with the Scoville Showdown for you psychos that like it really hot. And, hey, if you are just staying at home, while it's available, jump on some of those offerings from the BP playoff menu and order online at bostonpizza.com. All right, just before we bring in Jalen Harris, a big cheers to Winnipeg's favorite local brewery and our great sponsors at Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, let's welcome in one of the newest stars on the Winnipeg Sea Bears, a big part of the recent turnaround, two-time CEBL All-Star, Jalen Harris. What's going on, Jalen? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I appreciate you having me on.
It's been a nice turnaround after sort of a rough start for the Winnipeg Sea Bears, and your appearance here in the Peg has been a big part of it. Tell us about joining the team into the season and what you've seen so far as a Sea Bear.
Yeah, joining in. When I first started talking with Mike, I started looking into the team, of course, and clearly I saw the record, but I also saw the talent. I saw what was there. And I understand that the games, winning the games may not always be based on that. Based on those certain things, and so that was one thing that intrigued me coming in. Seeing the roster, seeing how I fit in, see Simi that was going to sign. Kind of seeing that's kind of what helped bring me in. And then just being here, man, it's been great. Getting another guys, getting another staff, the community a little bit. Been fun so far.
Some fans might not know this. You're a former draft pick of the Toronto Raptors and played north of the border in the NBA and do have some CEBL experience. Interested in how you were first introduced to the CEBL and what you've thought about the Canadian League since being a part of it and doing very well in it.
I have high regards for the league. I think I've always spoke highly of it in the sense of, the competition and then also the way it's ran. I think that it's a competitive league. Guys don't come out here and, mess around. It's serious. It's game plans, it's strategy, it's, good basketball being played. And so, for me, that's what kind of always attracts me back to it. And then, I just love living in Canada, especially during the summertime. It's not a bad place to be. So.
Hey, we'll agree. We often joke that we get a bit of a bad rap amongst the hockey world because people are coming here in January, but I'm sure you would agree. The Peg and this entire country is a beautiful place in the summer, a lot more tolerable than when it's minus 30.
Yeah, 100%. Summertime in Canada is hard to beat.
Jalen, the Sea Bears are a newer team in the league. And, as a team on the court have had modest success, but, have been a huge hit in the stands. How much was the draw of the Sea Bears come into play in front of the crowds that we get at the Canada Life Center and obviously being the team that's hosting the championship as well this year?
Yeah, those were two big things that also helped kind of, secure the situation for me. Clearly I played here last year against Winnipeg and, just seeing the crowd, seeing the environment, the way they supported their team, that was obvious. And then, the fact that we hosting the championship weekend this year, not only puts you in it, of course, but, having that type of support in such a, critical time of the year, critical point in the season, I I think that'll be big for us moving forward.
We're talking with Jalen Harris, one of the newest stars, the Winnipeg Sea Bears, who are actually on the road this weekend, heading out to Vancouver to take on the Bandits on Friday night. Jalen, you mentioned Mike Taylor. Tell us a little bit about the recruitment of you, what you knew about Mike, how the conversations went, and what it took to get you here to be a part of the Sea Bears, albeit a little bit into the season.
Just I was back home after my season finished in China, and just kind of testing the waters per se, you could say. And then, I got in contact with Mike, and I knew Mike, clearly known him from past years playing against them. And I've always had a lot of respect for his ability to coach and, kind of the challenge it was going against him, you know what I mean? And so I always had high respect for him. And so once we started talking, it was, we realized we had mutual interests, mutual things that we were kind of agree upon, and you know what I mean? And that kind of just helped us click.
Jalen, one of the great things about the CEBL is that it gives players such as yourself a chance to stay playing at a high level throughout the traditional off season of basketball, and then get ready for the year. You mentioned you've been playing in China, Nanjing MK of the Chinese Basketball League. What has been the experience like moving overseas to a very different culture and being a star player in the Chinese Pro League?
Like you said, it's very different. The culture is different, kind of the way of life. Just the things that is normal for me was not normal going over there. So I think it was a great experience. I think it's something that I've learned, kind of adapted to. You know what I mean? I think that's always a skill to have, being able to adapt to any type of situation, environment. It's been something for me. And so that's kind of how I looked at it. Something that I could share with my family, my daughter, the experiences that I've got to see different parts of the world. And so I definitely take that I don't take it for granted. You know what I mean?
What do you remember about the first day on the job in the Chinese league? I mean, how much was the language barrier an issue? I mean, how did they bring you into the team?
Yeah, I had trouble at the border. Like I couldn't communicate with people trying to just get my passport across. And, so that was the first day. It was rough. It took a while. No internet, kind of different. They have internet, but it's different services. Like, it's just, it takes some time to get used to, definitely.
What about the food? We eat a lot of Chinese food here in North America. Is it the same stuff you're getting over there in Nanjing?
No, not the same. Not the same at all. A lot of more simpler, some more complex dishes. Honestly, it was very different than anything we have over here.
You know what? It is for players like yourself that have some NBA experience. There probably are a lot of different opportunities. I mean, the Chinese league would be one of them. For you and your career, I mean, obviously, I guess is the goal to stay in North America 12 months of a year right now. And how much can a strong season in the CEBL help get back to playing maybe a little closer to home?
Yeah, that's the goal. You know what I mean? That's the goal. Kind of find a good situation. That would be ideal. But at the end of the day, like, as nice as it would be to stay in North America, I would, for whatever opportunity, if it's the right opportunity, that being said, I would go elsewhere. But being home, like I said, I have a daughter now. She'll be 3 in December. So, being close to home would be ideal, which is another reason kind of why coming back to the CBL is always nice.
Jalen Harris is with us from the Winnipeg Sea Bears. You played 4 games. It's been a complete turnaround for the club. We're on a nice winning streak right now. You mentioned Simi Shidu as well. There's some people that maybe haven't seen the last couple of games. We've heard this guy's name. What did you know about him as an opponent in the CEBL? And how exciting is it to not only have yourself, but Simi now as part of the Sea Bears moving forward?
That's huge for us. Simi, not only being just a great player, like being a great Canadian player in this league, that's a big help for a team. You know what I mean? Because that's kind of, how it is. You get three Americans, 2 Canadians on the court. And if you can have somebody of Simi's stature, kind of being one of those on the court at all times, that kind of makes it, a lot easier to get the job done. He's opened the game up for us, kind of giving us somebody on the inside that makes the game a little bit easier. We can get some easy ones when other teams are going on runs. Or one thing that, he's been really good at for us as well is, whenever I have the ball or Terry got the ball and we get these pick and rolls, we get doubled. He's great out of the pocket. So catch it in there, and he's great at making the pass, making the right read. And so I think it just opened the game up for us, made it a lot easier for some of our other guys be able to get open and stuff.
Jalen, now that you've been here for a few days and a few games, and I mentioned Simi's here as well, it seems like things are really going in a positive direction. We always say in pro sports, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. How optimistic are you that there might be some big wins and a special season ahead for the Sea Bears and their fans?
Very optimistic. Like I said, we have a great group of guys. We got guys who are motivated, talented, and, if we can continue to build, continue to gel with each other, I think that'll put us in a good position. We're here championship weekend already. I think, with what we have, we can, be disciplined, be mature, and lock in on what we need to. I think we'll be good.
I asked you how big of a draw it was to see the way this team has been supported. You see the crowd, on the weekend. I mean, what's it been like being a home player for that Sea Bears crowd so far early in your time here in Winnipeg?
It's great. It's great. You can see the way they kind of excite our team, change the game for us at times, and they have our back. We're on the court. Whatever happens, there's always adversity, always runs in the game. And so being able to have such a supportive community like that, you can hear them on the court. So it helps us out a ton.
Hey, you've got a lot of professional experience and have played the game all your life. I've got to ask you as a player, what do you think of the Elam ending or the target score, the way games are determined in the CEBL?
I think it's fun. I think it makes every game, kind of exciting. And it always kind of leaves the door open. You know what I mean? I think a normal game, of course, you may be up 10 with 4 minutes left, and I may look a certain way, but, once that target score comes, like, there's no clock anymore. A game can't end until you score. So it kind of keeps the door open at all times. Everybody has to keep playing the full time, full game.
Well, as a guy that's known for getting buckets, I mean, what's it like from your perspective in that target time, knowing what the score is and feeling that the next time you put one up, it might be curtains for the opponents?
It's always makes it a little bit more fun. I think at the same time, kind of like I said, being able to, I think it makes it exciting having to go into it and like you kind of have to execute. You know what I mean? It's not just, some of it is transition, some of it is free play, but like target time, it's kind of lock in, it's execute, it's, get to our certain sets. And I like that about it. I think that makes the game beautiful.
Have you played target score in any of the other leagues that you've been in or just CEBL?
I did a little bit in the G League for overtime, but it's, like I said, those are only overtime games. It's different when it's every single game. You got to go out and hit the bucket to win.
Jalen Harris is with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk. So I guess a practice tomorrow and then out to Vancouver. Just a thought on going up against the Bandits, who have been really the standard so far early on in the CEBL season.
I think they're a good team. I know a lot of those guys. I think they're well coached. Coach Kyle over there. I think they're a good situation. But I think for us, we focus on ourselves, focus on the details. I think this will be a big test for us. You know what I mean? We've had a good little streak going. This is potentially a team that we would see the first round of the tournament of the championship weekend. So, for us, that's kind of how we're going about it. We've been locked in the past couple of days, watching film, getting our work in. And so I'm excited to see what we come up on Friday.
Jalen, great having you on the program. Good luck on Friday to keep this win streak rolling and get back to 500 and up and away from there for the Sea Bears. And, of course, heading towards the championship weekend here in Winnipeg a little later on. Great to have you on the program. All the best moving forward. Thanks for doing this.
Yes, sir. No doubt. I appreciate you having me.
All right, good stuff with Jalen Harris. The Sea Bears look to get to 500 Friday in Vancouver. I know they'll be an underdog on the Coolbet lines, but very different looking team now that Jalen's in town as well as Simi Shadu. Tomorrow night is our Gold Eyes game. Can't wait to see you all there. Again, you'll get an email tonight, but we will be set up in front of the ballpark at a table with wristbands and our list for everyone that purchased tickets. You'll get your wristbands. You'll pop in. We've got the entire lower patio deck sold out. So looking forward to see you there. Again, if you got your tickets already from us, just look for an email tonight and pop by and see it. Myself, Remo, Connor, Liz will be there getting out the wristbands to everybody, and then it should be a great time. And, of course, both the Sea Bears and Goldeyes games, now available for responsible wagering over at Coolbet. Guaranteed auto bet. I'm taking the Fish tomorrow night. They got a nice win for us last night. Max Murphy's going to join us on the show tomorrow as well. We will do our Assiniboia Downs picks in a moment. But first off, we're going to get into a little bit of golf talk and our picks for the weekend in the Travelers with our pal, Pat Gregoire. Of course, all of our golf reports all season long. Brought to you by Breezy Bend. Going to be heading out, actually. Coolbet is a big sponsor of the RBC Scramble, which involves winning a trip to Cabot Links. And you'll also have a chance to win a trip for you and 3 buddies to Cabot in one of the amazing Coolbet promos we'll get to in just a minute, as well as a nice little carrot for our top 2 finishers in the poker tourney coming up on Monday. But if you do want more information on Breezy Bend, go to breezybend.ca. And we'll see you there at Breezy for the Manitoba Open later on this year. P. Greggy himself, Pat Gregoire, joins us now from Coolbet. Pat, what's going on? How are you, pal? Great to see you.
Good to see you too, Huss. It's a little bit sad this morning. Hockey season is officially done. The dog days of summer are slowly creeping up on us. I know we still got CFL. We got golf, which we'll talk about. Hey, you guys out in Winnipeg, you've got the Goldeyes, which again, you said you can wager on Coolbet now, which is awesome. But the dog days of summer usually means, okay, cool promotions at Coolbet start to heat up. So you mentioned the Cabot trip, but the poker tournament, the Coolbet Open. This is one of the biggest poker events in all of Northern Europe. It's not just a little tiny, small Coolbet event with some, a couple of, big players here and maybe some staffers here. No. This is a massive event, and you're going to have an opportunity to play your way into this big event.
Yeah, well, let's get to that. So Monday night, I announced this yesterday, but Monday night, 8:30 start is going to be the next edition of the WST Poker Series. If you've played before or if you haven't, register at Coolbet, click on the poker, make sure you download. I've done it on the best thing for me personally playing it was downloading the poker software on my desktop and playing that way. But once you get in there, you go to tournaments, just search WST. You'll be able to go and enter. Now, obviously, all the money that goes in, someone will win it, depending on how many players. But the top 2 finishers, if you get the heads up in our tourney on Monday, you're going to get an entry into the Canadian final tourney, Pat. And someone, hopefully a WST player, will be winning a trip to Estonia for the Coolbet Open. Sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's one of our cornerstone events for the year for Coolbet. All of our markets are sending players throughout. If you are a frequent player at Coolbet when it comes to poker, you've seen this before. You've probably even played in some qualifiers before as well. But obviously, with the time change, the majority of Coolbet is based in Europe. So it's kind of tough to get into some of those qualifiers. Sometimes they're at 1 o'clock Eastern time. Sometimes they're a little bit later than that, maybe 3 o'clock. But there aren't too many that fit Mountain Time or Eastern Standard Time or even Pacific Time. So we took it upon ourselves, said, you know what? Hey, you can still work your way into here, but why not get our partners involved, and why not give a better opportunity for Canadians to go to this awesome event? So we've got our WST Coolbet Open qualifier that's going to be on June 23rd, like you said, at 8:30 Central. Basically, the top 2 qualifiers, the people who finish number 1 and number 2 in that tournament, are going to then advance to the Coolbet Open Canadian Championship, which will happen a little later after that. June 15th. July 15th is the Coolbet Open final. But we'll have our final just a little bit before that. You'll basically have about a month in between the Canadian qualifier to the main event. But this is a huge package. It's not just you get into the tournament, you got to figure out your way how to get to Estonia. No, it's going to cover your package, which includes the $550 or euro buy-in. So that's about $860 Canadian. That's how big this buy-in is. Almost $1,000 to get into this main event. It also includes a 5-night stay at the Nordic Hotel Forum, which is where this is all going down. An extra €300 in case you want to play in one of the other events that are going on besides the main tournament. Includes your dinner as well, breakfast as well, and then a Coolbet welcome swag bag. So pretty cool opportunity. And of course, we want you to play in the WST Open Qualifier on the 23rd. But if you miss out on that, there is the Western Regional Qualifier on June 26th at 7 p.m. Pacific, and then also the Eastern Regional Qualifier at June 26th at 8 p.m. Because Winnipeg's in the middle of the country, hey, you could probably advance in either one or go and try to win your way in either one. And our friend Pat Mayo, he is going to have his own tournament coming up as well. So keep your eyes and ears peeled to the Coolbet socials to win your way over to Estonia.
Yeah, and the other thing you want to do, just speaking of promos, is head on over. Just make sure you've pressed opt-in and submit on the golf trip of a lifetime. And every time you're playing, either in the casino, if you dabble there, or with sports betting, you will win tickets into the draw for a trip for you and 3 friends out to beautiful Nova Scotia to play 2 of the top 3 courses in Canada. And some would say some of the most beautiful courses in the world, for an incredible golf vacation surrounding the RBC Scramble, which we'll be involved in. And I'll have boots on the ground at a number of the qualifiers starting this weekend. I believe it's St. Boniface on Sunday throughout the next month or so. Patty, while we're talking golf, though, before we get to the Travelers, got to pick your brain. I imagine it was a probably pretty good weekend for the book, because I don't think there was a lot of people that were really lining up to bet on JJ Spaun. But what an incredible story he weaved, and a comeback for the ages. Like, he had the great start. We had all written him off after bogeying 5 of the first 6 holes. He somehow gets it together, was brilliant down the stretch, birdie 17, and the putt on 18 will go down in golf history as well. A great underdog story, even if we didn't cash any tickets.
No, and I know the business side of my brain is saying, thank goodness no one was on him. The better side of my brain says, how did we not bet him 125 to 1? Yeah, it is a great underdog story. I think, this is a guy that, unless you're really a pretty big hardcore golf fan, you really don't know who JJ Spaun is. Maybe you've recognized the name, looked at him on a leaderboard. He only had 1 career win coming into this at the Texas Valero a few years ago. But he has had a pretty good season this year. He, 5 top 10 finishes. He had a runners up, at the Masters, not at the Masters, at the PGA Championship, or one of the other events.
The Players.
I forget which one it was.
Players versus Rory.
Yes. Yeah, that's what it was. Yes, you're right. So it was the Players, runner-up finish there. 17 events played, 14 cuts made, finished inside the top 25 7 times. You talk to Pat Mayo, he's kicking himself. Like, you heard him last week say, like, JJ Spaun, when he's going through all his models and putting everything together, JJ Spaun kept popping up. And sure, like a lot of when you look at the analytics, it kind of comes through. But I think one thing now that we know about JJ Spaun, and you mentioned it, it's the mental fortitude. This guy has what it takes. And I think a win like this can propel him into maybe not elite status of a top 10 in the world, but a guy that's going to be there, a guy that's going to be around there. He's got a great story. Like we mentioned, lost his card, had to go to the Corn Ferry, had to battle back. A very likable guy. You talk to a lot of guys on tour, they seem to like this guy, but I think when it goes to show you, this is a guy that isn't going to be blown away by the big light. I think he's probably going to end up on the Ryder Cup team for Team USA. So
for sure,
I think it's almost a lock, is it not?
I think, I don't think even needs to be a pick. I mean, with his performance at the Players, what he's done and winning a major, I think he's just going to straight up be on the team. And listen, I mean, he's earned it. I mean, this wasn't a guy that was going to get the benefit of the doubt against the guys with a much bigger name. So, good on him for doing it and the way that he did. I mean, we'll remember that for a long time. But Oakmont won. Definitely. JJ Spawn survived, which brings us to the Travelers this week. And, this is a tournament that is an elevated event. You've got Scotty Scheffler once again as the prohibitive favorite, plus 280. It almost seems like if he didn't win last week, he's due to win this week, and that's why the number is so short. Rory's in at 12, Xander 14, Morikawa 16, Pat Cantlay 22-1, Oberg and JT 25, Vic Hovland 28, and then a group at 33, including Keegan Bradley, Sam Burns, Tommy Fleetwood, Russell Henley, Sepp Straka, 40s, Hideki, Spieth, Bobby Mack, Shane Lowry, and Daniel Berger. Patty, what do we need to know about the Travelers and who's on the card?
Well, if you didn't like the carnage, the wreckage, the blood, the guts all over the course, guys freaking out, saying this is too difficult for you, well, this is the tournament for you. This is a much easier course. This is one of the shortest courses on tour. Last year, Scotty Scheffler won this thing at 22 under, and that was not even good enough to win outright. He had to go into a playoff against Tom Kim. And there were two other guys that finished 20 under, just 2 strokes back as well. So a shorter course, a course where I think we're going to see it really be a birdie fest. There's a reason why Scotty Scheffler here is such a short favorite, but I do feel like there is some value. So the last couple of events you and I had to prepare for, us and everyone else who's looking and making picks, we're looking at long hitters. We're looking at long iron players. This one here, you don't need to mash it off the tee at River Highlands. You need a little more short game. You got to be a good putter. You have to. You absolutely have to be a good putter, unless you're Scotty Scheffler, of course, who just puts it 5 feet besides the pin and makes most of his putts.
Tap-ins all day.
It's going to take, I think, approach obviously will be important. Keeping it in the fairway will be important as well, but I don't think it's as important as the last couple of tournaments that we've had. So I've got my eyes on a few guys.
I have three selections that I've bet, and I will Barry Horowitz myself for getting a good line and potentially moving it. I was originally looking at this as soon as it came out, and I've been high on Keegan Bradley. I think he's sniffing around it, and we know that he would love to win and just put himself onto that Ryder Cup team. And I bet him at 40, and like almost immediately it went to 33 in that group. So he's at 33 right now. Got him at 40 on Coolbet, which was nice. I just love that number. I thought he was probably going to be on my card anyway, so I started there. And then, you're looking at that big group, Pat, of the leaders. I mean, I'm not going to go with Scotty. So who are we looking at in between Rory at 12-1 in that group at 33? And I know he had a rough Friday and did not play the weekend, but I'm ponying back up with our guy Ludwig. To me, he is such a well-rounded player that can do it all. And I kind of think he'll be maybe in a little bit of an ornery mood after what happened with only 2 rounds played at Oakmont. Be better prepared, be ready to go. So I'm going to roll with Oberg at 25, and then I figured I'd take someone a little further down the list. And I got to tell you, I think there's great value on Harris English. 50-1 for Harris. And you think about what he's done. Now, listen, he made the cut. He got eaten up like everyone else did at Oakmont. But outside of that, previous tournament, T12 at the Memorial. He was T2 at the PGA Championship, another major. He has gone toe-to-toe with many of these guys, and when he gets hot, he can sink birdies. So I didn't mind the 50-1 on Harris English. That was where I finished up with my 3 picks. Who do you got?
Yeah, well, I won't spend too much time on Bradley because he's on my card. I told you I was a little ticked off because you moved the line. But even at 33-1, I'm quite happy with that. A top 20 finish for him as well, I think, is great here. He won here. just a couple of years ago, back in 2023. He finished runner-up back in 2019. I think it fits his game, and you mentioned it. The Ryder Cup factor is certainly here. I'm going to go with the other Scandinavian, and I'm going to go with Vic Hovland. I think a lot of people are like throwing out what did you do last week because the courses are so polar opposite and just the conditions were so crazy. But I'm going to go with the guy who played well in Vic Hovland, 28-1. I like him to finish top 20. I even like him to finish inside the top 10, obviously, if I'm picking him to win. But I know when you think Vic Hovland, you think of what he does off the tee and with his long irons. But a lot of it's been his short game that has improved immensely. But his approach has been unbelievable in this little stretch where he's turned his game around. 11 straight events since February where he has gained strokes on approach. He's 6th on approach to green on the entire tour. And as I mentioned, he was chipping really well and putting really well up until Sunday where he fell off there. But I think Vic Hovland here, 28-1 is a good spot. We might have to do our normal parlay, but maybe an exclusive for either Hovland or Oberg. Little Scandy Dandy WST special for either one of them to win at a little bit of a reduced number. And then my last pick, Nick Taylor. I've been riding this guy. He has been hot. I'll take him at 100-1 to win. But what I really like, and it's my bet of the week, and it might be my bet of the year, Nick Taylor to finish top Canadian plus 225. He has been the low Canadian in 3 straight events. Last, when we saw him out last at the U.S. Open, the Canadian Open, he was there. And then the week before that at the Memorial. He has been really red hot. 12th in approach around the green and 8th on tour in greens in reg. And normally here is one of the knocks on his game is he doesn't hit it long enough off the tee. And even at the places where you got to hit it long off the tee, where your long irons have to be dialed in, he has had some success. So at a golf course that is a birdie fest where his putter, we know it can get hot, and we know that he can be a crafty around the greens and with his approach, I think this is a spot that actually fits him really nice at 100-1. But top Canadian at 225, Corey Connors is not in this event. He withdrew because of a bad wrist. I was shocked to see that he was tied for second with Mac Hughes at plus 225. And no knock against our friend Taylor Pendrith, but I think Nick Taylor at this golf course should be the favorite to be the top Canadian here. And then I'll wrap it up. Greggy's golf special, Scheffler, Hovland, Nick Taylor, all top 20, plus 531, boosted all the way up to plus 609.
How about this for the Sunday Sweat Club? Nick Taylor, top Canadian. Keegan Bradley, top 20.
I love that. That's a beauty.
Let's
lock that
throw it in there. We'll get that up in the combo cards of the exclusive, folks. You know where to find those, right on the main page of Coolbet. Just speaking of exclusives, I didn't want to spoil this before we did CFL 110 yesterday, but we got a real nice banger out. Bombers minus 2.5, Riders minus 2.5, and the Alouettes minus 4.5. That number has since gone to plus 6 or minus 6. So right now it's boosted from plus 491 to plus 564. And there's some other ones that Pat Mayo's got with a Lowry top 20 and a Hollywood Hoagie top 20 boosted to plus 533. Pat's Greggy's golf special is up there as well. And one, if you want to see the Canadians go off, you get better than 20-1 for Pendy Hughes and Nick Taylor all to get in on it. Again, folks, make a point of getting in with us on that poker tourney on Monday, 8:30. DM if you have any questions on getting in. We'll post the details on social media as well. And the top 2 qualifiers, top 2 finishers in our tournament will go to the final for that trip to Estonia and the Coolbet Poker Open. As someone saw the what they did for the winners in Costa Rica, I can guarantee you it will be an incredible experience if you're fortunate enough to make it through. Patty, great stuff as always, man. Thanks for jumping on, and Let's get that. Nick Taylor, top Canadian, Keegan, top 20, and maybe even mix in an outright winner too.
Yeah, and we're going to increase our chances for an outright winner with that Scandy Dandy. It's coming up. We're doing it. Hovland or Oberg. We're chalking this one up.
Let's make it happen. Thanks again, Pat. Have a great one. We'll talk to you soon.
See you, lads.
All right, there's Pat Gregoire. You can give him a follow on Twitter at @PGreggy, and make sure to give at Coolbet Canada a follow as well, so you'll get details on things like the WST tourney with that special bonus for our top 2 finishers. Remis, do you think you have what it takes to be top 2 and then make it through and represent WST and the country of Canada at the Coolbet Open in Estonia?
That sounds like it would be amazing. I did finish second in the first ever EST one. I haven't been able to I don't think I've made a final table since that. We did the last tournament. I was not in the right mindset. I think getting in the right mindset's been key for me. It's Monday. Monday's a good day. It's a good time. There's no hockey on, no distractions. I got to start studying up more.
Patience, focus. We'll have it all again. So Monday, let's see.
Yes.
All you out. Schickster, no D&D on Monday. You'll be there as well as the rest of the crew. And yes, there will be a $100 bounty on my head and Remis's head. But why don't you wait to take us out until the final 2? So one of us can be in there as well. Hey, before we go, Reem, let's get ready for some live racing tonight at Assiniboia Downs. We both hit our first winner yesterday. But unfortunately, I think a lot of other people were thinking the same thing, because when we originally bet that horse at 7-2, it ended up going off at like 2-5. So our win was relatively meager, but we got a big slate of races. I actually spread my picks over 5 races today, including a couple triactors at the end. I'm on race 1, 2, 5, 6, and 7. What about you?
I have 3, 5, 6, and 7, and I picked 2 winners, true triactor boxes. So
perfect. Okay, I did as well. Let's just start it off. Race number 1, I'm putting $3 on number 4 to win. That's Wicked Black Bullet. In race number 2, I am putting a $3 wager on number 3 to win. That is Ropers and the Wranglers. So those are my first 2. What do you have for race number 3?
I have an exact box 2-6. That's kind of the favorites there. The Ronald and Lab Rat. An exacta box. So first, second, any order.
I was looking at that one as well. Do you have 4 or no?
No, just 5, 6, 7.
Okay, race number 5. I'm putting a toonie on number 6 to win. That is Mini Glazed Donut.
Okay, I got $4 on 2 left to load.
Yes, that's the AS Smart Pick for that one today. Which then brings us to race number 6. What are you cooking up for race 6?
2, 5, 7. I got big ticket, Sol de Sur, free maker. So 2 favorites and a bit of a longer shot.
Interesting. I have a similar pick as you. I've got the triactor box. I've got big ticket. I've got Solo del Sur. I'm going with Diamond Concerto, number 8. I guess that's technically the AI Smart Picks. So 258 for me, 257 for Remis in any order. And then what do you got for race number 7?
Race number 7, 159 try. I got Bandera Azteca, Designated Hitter, and McCaig, one of my favorite horses ever. I think that was the first horse that I won on, maybe here. A veteran of the track.
It's so hilarious. We were both noticing, oh, McCaig's back. Guess what? 159 triactor box. We're not going to make up any ground on each other, but let's get the win. If you are at the track tonight or betting at HPI Bet and watching on the YouTube, that's got to be it. 159 in any order in race number 7. For a big double hitter. I don't think we've ever had the same triactor before, so this would be nice if we finally found a time to both get them. Should be a great night of racing at Assiniboia Downs. They'll be back at it next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, or actually next week. I think there is a Monday card as well. But relatively throughout the year, you can get the full schedule at Assiniboia Downs. Tuesday and Wednesday, count on it, with some additional Mondays throughout the year. There are picks for AS Downs, and make a point of heading over and, if you can, make a reservation in the dining room. I'm going to take my folks there in a couple of weeks. It is phenomenal. We'll have to do an event with the WST listeners maybe in August as well, or later on in July for that. But just give them a call, get a reservation, and take your dining and race night experience to the next level. Remo, so what do we do now? The finals are over.
Yeah. Great question. I got to send an email to all the people who bought tickets to Gold Eyes Night tonight, editing some stuff for Instagram Reels. Check that out. I don't know. Figured out some shows that I got to watch. Is there NBA on tonight?
No, NBA's tomorrow night.
Oh.
Which means that if you guys are Netflix subscribers, now available, Trainwreck, The Mayor of Mayhem, the Rob Ford Netflix documentary that I started last night. So if you're just reliving that, dude, like I remember we were at TSN at the time. The chaos, like I've never been so excited to check my feed when someone would go, oh my God, did you hear what Rob Ford just did? I mean, it was unlike anything that I can ever remember.
I think we played some clips on the warm-up. Maybe the only time that we ever played like political clips. I guess it was sports related because he did have that vintage NFL tie with all the old logos, and we started like looking up that tie on eBay. So yeah, what am I been watching? I'm catching up on The Rehearsal. I got one episode left. That's Nathan Fielder. And I started watching this documentary on WrestleMania 9, Becoming a Spectacle, at Caesar's Palace. It was Bret Hart and Yokozuna, and they weren't selling tickets and had to bring Hulk Hogan back to grab the belt after Bret Hart dropped it to Yoko at the last second. Known as one of the worst WrestleManias ever, I think. But a lot of the stuff that they did, dolling up the Caesar's Palace outdoor arena really set the stage for WrestleMania's what is on WrestleMania 40 just now?
Yeah, something like
I'm
that.
more of a WrestleMania like 9 to like 17 guy. That's me.
Hey, if you missed the edition of CFL 110 yesterday, check that out. It's available right now on the channel. And of course, we'll dive into more on the Bombers tomorrow as they get ready to try to sweep the BC Lions. When things get going coming up. I believe today was the closed practice, so there wasn't a lot from practice earlier today, but I'll get a walkthrough in and then get out to BC for that Saturday night game against the British Columbia Lions. Zach Calero's back and still waiting to hear what the status of Nathan Rourke is. He was there out in pads, but then he wasn't leading the first team offense. I do think that they'll be careful with Nathan Rourke, certainly by looking at the point spread in this game. I think the expectations are that he won't play against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, but I think that is still very much out in the air. But we'll have the latest on the Bombers for obviously Game 6 tomorrow, NBA Finals. And now we move on towards the draft and towards free agency. It is officially the offseason in the National Hockey League, which means a lot more cooking for everyone not named the Florida Panthers or the Edmonton Oilers now that the Cup final is finished. Great stuff with Ken Wiebe today. Appreciate Brandon Rewucki coming on. Jalen Harris from the Sea Bears. And, of course, Pat Gregoire. Tomorrow is our Gold Eyes night. If you bought tickets, check your email for the full information. We'll see you there at the front with wristbands for everyone when you arrive tomorrow, and look forward to what should be a great night. And, hey, if you're looking for something to do tonight, we got live racing at the Assiniboia Downs. And, of course, the Fisher back at it. And Gold Eyes Home Run King, Max Murphy, going to join us tomorrow on the program as well. Thanks to all the sponsors that make our program happen each and every day, and all of you for hanging out with us. That is going to do it for us today, folks. Make sure to join us tomorrow 1 p.m. right here on WST. And for many of you, we'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow at the ballpark for the WST patio party with the Winnipeg Goldeyes. Have a great night, and we'll catch you tomorrow.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.